Twitter notification, just got it.
All right, and you know something? We are on time this week. Got the low key Windows XP theme music in the back. Hopefully they won't ding us for copyright. I don't think Microsoft's ever informed us of that. I just got my YouTube notification, so that's good.
Everything is clicking along right on all cylinders. People are starting to funnel in here to listen to what rubbish we have to spew out there.
Amazing that they're still doing that after, well, let's see. We just celebrated our anniversary, which was, well, October the 6th, so over a week ago. But anyway, of the very first show, we kind of talked about that. It's amazing that people still listen to what we ramble on about for 176 plus shows.
Now, there's some elected officials would say, is that the best you could do? That's what they would say.
Take your best shot, huh? Well, we're not nearly done yet, and we'll talk about that some with the as we kind of do a quick election analysis. But
I'm just wondering why they don't just come on and do their own live shows and just start talking about what they think and say what they feel. Don't hold back.
Yeah, they should. I mean, we literally encourage. We encourage politicians or bureaucrats or whatever, you're always welcome on the show, but we also encourage other folks, that includes other politicians, to create their own content. Heck, we'll even help you out, and I'll be glad to show you how to do it.
Why do you think they won't? Why do they not do their live video every week to report on the state of Bossier?
Well, it'd be a great way to do it. I mean, a virtual town hall, so to speak. Even if they did it, I mean, they don't have to do it once a week like we do, or a couple of times a week, but they could do it once a month, or every couple of weeks, maybe.
Our police jurors, I could start naming them off. Some of them. Why don't they just start coming on live every week and take questions from the live viewers, and just talk about what's going on in the parish, and answer direct questions? Why won't they do that?
I don't really know. I mean, the problem is they would have to get responses if they did it live like we do, where we also encourage commentary. Then, they'd have to do something about that direct feedback that they were getting. I think that might be the problem. Because, hey, not that many people show up at the city council meetings. Not that many people show up at the police jury meetings. So they pretty much, are in their own little bubble.
Yeah, maybe we probably need to go ahead and go to that little break thing now that we've got almost 50 something people in here. Yeah. And we said we were going to make a point to really reach out to folks and try to get them to help us. So in that vein of thought, 50 something people, hey, help us, tag a few people, tell them we're on. We're going to talk about a lot of interesting topics. We're going to wrap up the races that all took place but hey, Bossier City, it was the gift that keeps on giving. There was a Queen David sighting in Bossier.
Yeah. Wait. There was a Queen David sighting in Bossier? Hold on a second. I was checking the comments over here.
Well, restream. You see, we did it a while ago. Yeah. You had to have seen it.
We'll be going over that shortly too. So yeah, we want to say hi to everybody. I see all the comments. I'm trying to do a little commenting back to folks, but Monica Hudson, Janet Lindsay, who else is here? Bruce is here, Val's here, Thomas is here. So hello to everybody. All right, let's go ahead and do the break. That's a good suggestion, Mr. Lowry.
Hey, Chris Smith even got called out. He was basically accused of lying.
Yeah, not basically. He was accused of lying, and I got to say, Mr. Smith grew a set, and I was very proud of the points that he made today. So, All right. Well, let's talk about that when we come back. Folks, y'all know the drill. We'll be gone for about 2.5 or 3 minutes. That lets y'all get some popcorn ready. Make sure and share and tag and text folks and let them know that, hey, we're on our soapbox again tonight. And we'll be right back in oh, I don't know, about 2.5 or 3 minutes. Here we go.
Knew a lot of the back office on the politicians that they think walk on water, they would be shocked. You know, there's an old wound from a knife in my back that just is giving me heck lately, and it's just really irritating, so I have to kind of wiggle around a little bit.
Well, I've not heard my name in stable or Baton Rouge in stable in the same sentence in a long time.
I titled it "A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys."
Just, you know, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
Some Republicans as well believe that government has the answers. And let me tell y'all something. I don't know anything government does well. Nothing.
Aren't there laws that say that you have public meetings so that the public can have accountability of their elected officials?
They're making a little bit of progress, but I would definitely have to give the race to Caddo Parish right now.
I don't know. Is there anybody from Plain Dealing watching, you think?
As a member of the media, I'm very concerned about what I've just heard.
Did you or did you not requisition some money to fight against this or for it?
We hired a lobbyist, and it cost us $15,000. We were opposed to HB 630.
So for this week, folks, the cockroach of the week, according to Bossier Watch and Duke Lowry and Rex Moncrief, is
Raymond Cruz legislative assistant, Allie Feaster Smith. Thank you, Allie. Well, I'm not thinking Star Wars at all. I'm thinking zombie apocalypse. No way.
Okay,
It was not
okay.
David. You know it wasn't David Montgomery. David ain't gonna jump off in there with Chris. He ain't gonna do it. He'd as soon spit on him as he would even look at him. Man, this is a Mickey D's Krispy Kreme week. Didn't you know? Who's paying y'all? And if you're driving on the roads, are you safe?
It's on the road, yeah.
Well, I know you're on the road, but I mean, is this all folks coming from the border down there?
Yeah, it's going to border. It's actually going to Mexico and buses.
Doesn't mean they interpret it the same way that I do. For instance, the Second Amendment. I take it very literally. That's been interpreted different ways in the court system all the way up to SCOTUS. Yeah, that's only going to cause more division that he claims he doesn't want to cause. And it's only going to cause more suspicion.
we're still right now combined on both pages and YouTube at 264 people watching. That is amazing. Folk Coleman Project, the Walker Place deal, through conscious, shocking action. The purpose of their actions was to stop plaintiffs, being the Earl Coleman and associated groups not, from developing Walker Place. But here's the key thing, which in turn would enrich sitting city council members Scott Irwin and David Montgomery Jr.
You hit the button. Does that mean that people are seeing us sitting here talking and chatting?
In theory, you know, it's an every week thing. We got to double check and make sure it's like a miracle any of this actually works. This Bossier Watch live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. Transact Card. Unleash the power of your spending with Z-Bucks. Contact Renee Hall. Smarter Geek. Making technology easier. David Johnson and Eagle Truck Center. Soaring to new heights. And folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. Well, we are back again.
All right, that's it. I'm done. I'm done sharing.
Yeah. Done sharing, huh? All right.
All right.
So, what are we going to talk about tonight? I mean, I've got two little things up there in our little bullet list. The election results and then next steps. I mean, I don't know. Oh, look, Heath Harvey's here. Hadn't seen him in a while. Hello, Heath. So what are we going to talk about tonight?
Well, hey, there's a lot of names I don't see a lot. You know, Janet Lindsay, Eddie Shea, we see regular. Paul Black, Val Baker, we see Val all the time. You shared Lisa Gosden Smith earlier. Yeah, Mike and Judy Dillingham, Jennifer Menard.
Yeah. Janet Lindsay says, please pray for our troops going to Israel. Yeah, that's a good thing. And, we were kind of talking about this pre-show, but I know what the end goal of Hamas is. I mean, other than, obviously, to kill Jews and, have Islam take over. But I know what the end game is, why they would do this attack when the result was going to obviously be so devastating. Do you know what my theory is?
Do you really think? Do you really believe that they expected Israel was going to flatten Gaza? Do you really think they expected that?
Yes, I do.
You think they thought that, hey, they're going to come in and they're just going to make it into a parking lot? I don't think they thought Israel would go that far.
No, hear me out. I don't know if they thought that Israel would quite go that far, but they knew there was going to be lots of carnage of the Palestinians. And, I'm not the most well-versed on that region over there, but it's a simple thing. They're creating more terrorists. Literally. That's what Hamas has done. Because, look, I'm fully on the side of Israel, and if Israel wants to turn it into a parking lot, I'm all on board with that too. But that is playing right into the hands of what Hamas is doing. They are creating more terrorists in the eyes of the younger folks and the younger generation of the Muslims, or, semi-radical, whatever you want to be politically correct and call them. They're adding fuel to that fire. Again, fully in support of Israel flattening them if they want, but this is a big deal.
Ooh, we got to be careful here, because one of our Republican friends is going to get us on Al Jazeera or something.
Well, you've already been there before. I figured if we're going to be on Al Jazeera, or you were this time, we may as well have a good reason.
Yeah, it would be me and my family's second appearance. Thank y'all to one of my legislative opponents or their supporters.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I don't know. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, look, they need to replenish their troops per se, but I think I think they didn't count on Israel saying, "Hey, you know what? Enough. We're just going to go in and flatten the place." I don't think they counted on that. I really don't. But
we'll agree to disagree. But I think they did.
Yeah, I just can't go with that one. But interestingly, why is it that none of those other countries will take the Palestinians? Why won't they take them? Isn't that?
I'm sure Biden probably would if he could figure out a boat to get them on and ship them right over here.
Well, he's flying Air Force One over there to load up as many as he can. He's going to load them up before he loads up any Americans.
Off on a tangent here for a second, but our good friend Rusty Lombardino says, "I'm watching. Y'all can talk about me." Hello, Rusty.
My good buddy Rusty. I love him. Hey, you won, Rusty. Good job.
I think I still owe Rusty a lunch at that Mexican restaurant. Don't I still owe you a lunch? You bought me lunch like a year and a half or 2 years ago, Rusty, and I never returned the favor. I think I still owe you lunch. Let me know in the comments.
Yeah, you're right, Val. Hunter's probably over there cutting a deal. That's probably what's happening.
So anyway, we obviously are not going to come close to solving the problem between Israel and the Palestinians, and the radical Islam, Muslim, blah blah blah, and all that going on in the world. It's a religious thing to them. But we have a different perspective on it. Over here, we look at it through the lens of right and wrong and, our form of democracy and all that. To them, it's a religious thing. I mean, it's at their core beliefs. And I'm not saying all Muslims hate Jews and, want to kill all the Jews and all that. I'm not saying that. But it is a religious thing. So anyway, that's my take on it.
Okay, well, that depends on whether you recognize one side of the equation as being a religion or whether you don't. Because some people don't hold that one side of the equation is a religion. Some people hold that it is a form of government or a political philosophy or something like that.
You might can make that argument, but you can make that argument about Christianity too. And I'm a Christian, but hey, we can talk about it.
Yeah, you're right, but I don't see Christians going out there doing jihad every freaking week.
I didn't say that, but it could be considered a form of government in some respects. I mean, that argument can be made about pretty much any religion.
Anyway, moving right along. So, look, in Louisiana, there's people saying that, hey, when John Bel Edwards was elected, he was, it was his election, it was basically saying that the state wanted to move in a certain direction. Well, now they're saying because Jeff Landry won by such a small margin, it's not making a statement that the state wants to move in a certain direction.
Wait. Landry won by a small margin. It was pretty much a blowout.
Well, they're saying that wasn't a blowout. They're saying that was a minimal number.
He got 50, what was it, right at 52%, give or take just a little bit of the vote in the primary against, well, how many people were on the ballot? I mean, I lost count. I was having to scroll to find, go through all the names.
I counted. I'm pretty sure it was about 12.
Yeah. Okay. About 12. Exactly.
Well, I say 12, and here's the reason I say 12, because in that same argument, people were saying, oh, if Billy Nungesser would have been in the race, it would have been different. Billy would have blown him out because look at how many votes Billy got. Well, Billy did get more votes, but Billy only had 7 less non-Democrat opponents than Jeff Landry.
Yeah, well, look here. Here's my, quick Tuesday night quarterbacking of the elections this week. At least as far as that goes, is, it's no secret both you and I supported Jeff and all that. But it was pretty much a blowout. Now, I agree that if Billy would have been in the governor's race, that would have changed the equation some. Would Jeff have made it in the primary and not had to go to a runoff? I don't know. If Billy entered there, that would dilute it down some more. And, there may have been a runoff, so it would have changed the equation. I still think Jeff would have come out ahead, just whether he would have been able to avoid a runoff had Billy been in there. I don't know. It's kind of doubtful.
Well, think about it like this. 70% of the Louisiana population that voted against Democrats.
Yeah.
70.
It's a correction.
70%.
It's a correction. Look, we see this even on the national level a lot of times, but certainly at the state level and sometimes maybe even at the local level. So the tide will go one way, and then usually there's a serious course correction at some point in the near future.
But Rex, think about that for a second. 70%. There were multiple Democrat candidates.
70% of 30%, of 30, what was it, 35%? Give or take a few.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, look, the Republican Party just became one of the major parties in Louisiana. What I'm telling you is a majority of Democrats did not vote down party lines. There's something going on here.
There are more registered Democrats in the state than there are Republicans.
That's my point. Are we crossing the Rubicon here where Democrats are finally saying, you know what? Enough's enough. We've had enough of illegal immigration. We've had enough of crime. We've had enough of, excessive government taxation, seeing no return on our tax dollars, in good roads, in good government. Are they finally waking up and coming over and saying, you know what, we've tried this freaking broken government crap and handout crap for all of these years. Maybe it's time we change course and do something different?
Maybe on the state level, but I'll throw another little statistic out there, and I'm have not even looked these numbers up, so I'm, just approximating here. But when Trump was elected, and then when Trump ran for re-election, how many people voted in Louisiana for Trump? A wide majority. And again, there are more registered Democrats in the state than there are Republicans. So, yeah, but I don't know. It's a fickle thing.
Well,
I really don't.
I would contend that people are tired of piss poor government. And,
Right.
What I would say is that in this race, Jeff Landry was able to get the message out about what he would do, what the problems are in this race. The message resonated with the voters and across party lines. And, they voted by not voting and they voted by voting. And I'll tell you, I mean, look, I've had aspirations to be in the legislature in the past. And one of the things that was a consideration even then and for years has been, you know, constitutional convention. We're working on a constitution that was wrote in the 70s. And we're sitting here with state. We've got a lot of problems. We got a lot of problems because of the way our government is in Louisiana. We can't get anything done. We have horrible roads. I mean, freaking literally on my wife's car, which is a brand new, nice car, I've had to change the shocks already on it. I mean, I got a brand new pair sitting in the shop right now.
Oh, yeah, but
to
look,
change them again on a brand new vehicle.
They're finally redoing I-20 after 30, 40 years. They're finally doing it. And, hey, it must have been Mike Johnson that did it. He got that money approved, right?
Oh, I wasn't going to go there, but don't even,
Hey.
don't even tempt me.
What does that hat say? Does that say Team Landry? Where did
It
you get that hat?
Boy, that's a secret squirrel. I can't tell you that. Look, I
I'm
supported
jealous.
Jeff. I was with Jeff even before he ran for AG. There's not many people
That's
in
true.
this town. I can remember when everybody hold your seat down. Y'all better grab something so you don't fall out of your chair and break your neck when you hit the floor. But I can remember when Mike Johnson and Richard Ray and Ryan Gaddy all wouldn't support Jeff Landry even for AG against Buddy Caldwell. Yes, I was there. Mike Johnson wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
I was there. Call me a liar, Mike.
Hey, something I just realized while I was watching her intro? I'm going to have to kind of change it around. I mean, one of the best quotes in there is from Robert Mills, and, well, he's not our state senator anymore.
Look, Robert, he thought he was going to get a pass. I mean, and I'm hearing some whispers about some stuff. And I don't know whether this is accurate or not. I would like to know if this is accurate, but did you hear this, Rex? Supposedly, the backstory is that Robert Mills went and tried to recruit Adam Bass to run against Raymond Cruz.
I did hear
that. I'm just wondering if that's accurate or not.
I don't know. Politics makes strange bedfellows. I can tell you this. So, and I think I've said it before, is the way that Robert Mills was recruited. And like I've said before, he's been a great interviewer. He's been super nice to me when we've seen each other.
Who recruited him?
MJ and the whole MJ regime.
Oh, okay.
Back originally, 2019. Okay.
But dude, it's just always MJ's right in the middle of everything. It's interesting like that. Makes me think back to the days of being on Al Jazeera. Huh.
Yeah, anyway, if I remember right, the working deal is that Robert was 20th down the list to run against Gaddy or whatever. They recruited him, got him to move over to Bossier and all that, which he did. Propped him up, got him elected. Turned out, in my opinion, to be a relatively good guy. He never turned us down for an interview and all that, even though I didn't support him, when he ran the first time. And then They dropped him like a hot potato this race. I mean, like, shoved him aside like a redheaded stepchild. No offense to redheaded kids. But, just shoved him completely to the side and rolled over him like a freight train. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But I got to tell you, do you know who I voted for, Duke?
Well, I mean, look, everybody is all about this secret ballot. By gosh, we can't know how you voted,
Oh, hell with
So
that. I think ballots ought to be public. I mean, we've had one person reach out to us who I won't name on the show right now, who was going to buy the entire voting list and voting history and publish all of the people that did and did not vote in Bossier Parish. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but
you know who it was. You know who I'm talking about, even though you may not have realized.
Yeah, but what freaking difference does it matter? I mean, because that gets into the argument of whether or not. Ooh, I was fixing to say something about a lot of. It ain't a lot of our audience. It's not our audience, but I was going to say something about all these brain dead zombies in our community.
Well, look, I don't listen to Moon. I don't listen to Moon Griffon much.
Wait a minute. Let me clarify. Right. Brain dead zombies, because look at what we reelected on the police jury.
Well, let's get to that in a minute. So
we obviously have some brain dead zombies in our community, and I don't think it's the people watching this show. Because if you watch this show, you're educated on why we need new police jurors.
Right. And look, we did have a little movement on the needle there, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's keep hovering around this Senate race, and then we'll switch to the police jury. So, would you like to know who I voted for? And why?
Well, that was the thing I was going to say. If you are so inclined to tell me who you voted for Senate, yes, I want to know. And, I want to know why.
All right. I voted for Adam Bass.
Okay.
And look, I struggled kind of back and forth with that right up until literally, because I didn't early vote. My wife and I voted, Saturday or whatever at Stockwell. And I struggled with it until we were getting in the truck to go down there. Well, almost. But do you know why I voted for Adam? It was because of our debate.
Oh, okay.
With Adam and Mills.
Well, then what part of the debate? No, wait a minute. I do know. I just thought of it. I know what it was. Go ahead. Tell
me. what is my main issue? My litmus test, I've said it before, even for dog catcher.
You want the damn dog catcher packing a 45 right out in the open whenever he go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yep, absolutely. And that was where Mills was weak during the debate, because the exchange, but not that Adam was perfect during that debate either, but in the exchange between Mills and Adam on Second Amendment and constitutional carry, and when Mills made the comment, well, you carrying now and whatever, and then said, well, good, or whatever. Anyway, that whole exchange right there, that's what changed it.
Yeah, and that's what debates give you. That was an unscripted moment where dialogue was able to happen between the candidates, and you were able to get a glimpse into the candidates and who they really are and what they really think, because it was unscripted by both candidates.
Right.
And
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was reading one of the comments here.
Well, I was gonna say, and that unscripted moment, made a deciding factor for you, and that's why. I mean, look, too many of these they have these forums. I mean, it annoys me about Shreveport, because Shreveport is all about having these forums, and I'm gonna say their names. I'm gonna criticize them. KTBS, KSLA. All the major news, Keel, they have these forums, but they don't actually have true debates where the candidates actually go at each other and have dialogue. You've got to enable them to have the dialogue to distinguish the differences between them. A forum only lets them get up there and say, I believe this, and this is why you should vote for me.
They go
And
down their
nobody
script and their
there's no
talking points.
challenge. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, and credit to you because, I did the technical side of the debate. You did kind of the moderation, so to speak. And I think you did a great job with that. And we've gotten a lot of positive response off of it. But
Yeah, but
we
it's
did let
not.
them have dialogue.
Yeah, but that's it's not no credit to me, and it's not no credit to you. It's to the process of enabling
Right.
the dialogue, whereas the forums do not enable that to
No,
happen.
just let them read their talking points that nobody wants to hear. So I agree. So
We get all that on freaking mail pieces and media.
yeah, so note to anybody that wants to do a forum or debate in the future, actually let them debate. Actually let them have a dialogue. Because you're right. If that exchange hadn't happened, I honestly would have probably pulled the lever for Mills. But anyway, so I just want to share that. Now, D.D. White Clark did say in the comments, no one should know who voted for whomever or even whether or not someone voted. Well, newsflash, the information on whether you voted or not is public information. You can buy the list from the Secretary of State too, just like anybody else can. And as far as whether or not, as far as whom or who you voted for, whom or who. Anyway,
Well,
I digress.
well, look, I can tell you that should be relevant information because the last time I ran for the legislature, I went back, pulled voting records of myself and all my opponents, and I had only missed, I think, 2, maybe 3 elections since 1988.
Right.
2 or maybe 3. And 2 of those was while I was in Colorado and Utah and Wyoming working. Not that there's an excuse, but I was out of town. There was no way I could be here. But 2 or 3.
I've missed way more than that because look, I didn't get really back into politics. I mean, I've always paid attention to politics, but I didn't get back into politics until the early mid 2000s.
But let me give you the point, Rex. Let me give you the point of that. The point is that is something that should be important to voters. Your political candidate, and I'm using me as the example here, not that I'm looking for any kudos from anybody because I'm not. That horse has left the barn. But the point is, do you think the voters or people gave whether or not a candidate has done their due diligence in being involved in, elections and the process? Did that count for anything? It didn't count for crap. People didn't pay attention to it.
No.
I say that to say, I think our public, I think in too many instances, we're not paying attention to the details that matter in these races. We're not doing it.
Well, look, it goes back to, we've both said this many times. We, you and I especially, and some of the group of people that we hang out with politically, we have a skewed perspective because we just assume that everybody views politics the way we do. We assume that most of our viewers view politics the way that we do. Now, I'm not saying the same, like the same candidates or have the same viewpoints, but view politics in general. And we just assume, which is a dangerous word, that everybody is engaged in it like we try to be. As we all know, that is not the case. Most people are just trying to go to work, come home, spend a little time with their family, work on their trucks or their cars or, whatever, and go about their life. They're not into politics like we are. And like many of our viewers are.
And they don't care until just like today, a business owner called me. He calls me and he says, "Hey," he says, "Man," he's like, "I'm fixing to have to pay this much in property taxes. What can I do? Why am I having to pay so much? I built this building and why am I blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, I just started laughing. I said, what do you mean, why? And I was like, "Who's your tax assessor?" I mean, I'm
Right.
not going to say where. And I'm like, do you even know? Do you even know what's going on in your local politics? And
Right.
didn't have a clue. Didn't have
Yeah.
a clue. But yet
Well,
they was all wound up when it finally came to their front door and hit their pocketbook.
oh yeah. Well, and look, I had another phone call yesterday. I'm not going to share the name right now, but it was somebody that has engaged the community around Lake Bistineau before. And his contention was, I guess I've narrowed the field down because I said him, but his contention was that a lot of the folks that were griping about their property taxes and taxes and blah, 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 and property tax this and property tax that actually fell under homestead exemption and weren't paying any property tax. Now, they obviously were paying other taxes, through sales tax and all that, but I don't know. What I'm trying to say is we need to get more people engaged. We need our viewers, and y'all have done a wonderful job. And look, folks are volunteering for the Term Limits Coalition and doing all that sort of thing as well. But we need our viewers to help get more people engaged. There's a bunch of ways to do that.
Agreed. But a result of the lack of engagement that segues into what you're saying, Rex, and we need to come back to that. But the police jury races are an example, of what you're saying and the engagement. Because the engagement, I mean, and what you said a while ago was dead on too. We have a skewed perspective. And if y'all are all watching the show, you all even have a skewed perspective. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that we are all in this little box. And if you're watching this show, or you have watched it, about, let's use an example, the police jury appointing Butch Ford when he was not a resident of Bossier Parish. You know that, state law requires, the parish administrator to be a resident of the parish. So that the police jury did it in violation of the law. So when Juliana Parks gets up at, a Republican Parish Executive Committee meeting and says that what Duke Lowry said is a lie, it's not true, it is true.
It is true.
But you know what? Us and y'all watching this, what we have to all realize is that we are a minority. We're a small little group of the population. So small that it's not enough to affect the elections. It's not. Because if it were, we would have seen a different outcome in the police jury election. But we saw,
let me tell you the only exception to that. Okay. We'll talk about the other races too. The one exception to that is Robert Berry. Now, granted, we're not trying to take full credit here on Bossier Watch for finally getting something done about the Cypress District and the Robert Berry situation, okay? However, we did play a large part in it, and there were meetings of which I attended, and I gave the guidelines and the process by which we were going to be able to correct the Cypress District. And I've said this before, and they actually happened. I can name the people that were there. Robert Berry also ran, as you know, for police juror. He got 20-something%, pretty much like the rest of the challengers to the incumbents. All right? What I'm saying is, because of the situation and the publicity from the Cypress District, I think that hindered Robert Berry from getting, he may not have been elected, but from getting more votes. Because, look, we didn't really hammer him about being a police juror on the show. As a matter of fact, we gave him a little credit because he said he supported term limits, and he did sign the digital petition for the police jury. So,
yeah, well, no, we didn't hammer him in that race. We didn't go after him at all. In fact, we
didn't really go after any of the candidates except for Juliana, and we always go after Juliana. So, let's see. Janet Lindsay says, I would never have known about Robert Berry if it wasn't for you and Duke. All right.
Yeah.
And let me address one other point, because you kind of touched on it right there, is we didn't really go after any other candidates. Now, we've talked about Philip Rogers. We gave Philip Rogers the opportunity to, do a debate. He chose not to. We've talked about both Doty and Chris Turner on both sides of that equation, and they had the opportunity. Doty didn't. Chris came on.
Hold up. We're going to have to come back to the legislative, because we can't just go through those police jury races with Philip Rogers and Andy Modica and Juliana Parks and Barry Butler, without going into that with some detail.
All right. So I'm not following. We've got a few notes, but I'm obviously not really following.
No, I ain't even look at the notes.
We're not even. You're doing like you're following me tonight. You're not looking at the notes at all. All right, so let's break this down. All right, so first of all, let's close out the Senate race, and then let's move down the list. All right, because we talked about the governor's race, we kind of talked about the lieutenant governor's race a little bit. Billy got it and all that. So let's move down to the. All right, let's finish up with the Senate race, and then let's move down into the police jury races. All right, so Senate race, obviously, Adam Bass won that. Got over the hump, doesn't have to do a runoff. So that one's done. Yeah. Now, let's move down and start with pick your police jury district.
One last item I'm going to add on the Senate thing. I think one of the things that hit, Robert Mills between the eyes is the dissension between himself and the reps. When you're the senator, you're expected to be the leader, and you can't be at odds with your reps. And he was clearly at odds with the reps. And when you look at the margins, I mean, the Doty Horton race and the blowout of Chris, Turner, I mean, obviously the electorate was on the side of continuing down the road with, Doty and the limited government conservative and stand on our principles, than bringing home the bacon. I think Robert was kind of more leaning towards the side of wanting to try to go down the road of playing the game to bring home more. And it cost him. Somebody seized upon that opportunity, which was Adam Bass. And, again, that backstory, I'm going to be interested to know the real story of what happened there. If there was some shenanigans going on there.
And something that Keith and Shane brought out on the Sidewalk podcast, which is actually a good listen. They do a pretty good deep dive into the numbers, but they said Adam just outworked Mills in the campaign. And I think there's some truth to that. It's not just about the sign wars, and it's not just about the digital media. That's part of it, but better than anybody that the other part of that equation is knocking on doors and shaking babies and kissing hands.
Yeah, there is a timeline of events that have to happen with any campaign. And this election cycle, there were so many failures, in different campaigns on the timeline that took place. And there was no excuse for Robert Mills' campaign. There was no excuse. But he let his guard down, and somebody took advantage of it.
Yeah, he came into our debate not well prepared. And that was a harbinger of, what the results were going to be. Not that our debate, helped swing the election in any great manner, but he came into that debate not nearly as prepared as Adam Bass was. Let's put it that way. All right.
So legislatively, Doty Horton and Chris Turner. So why do you think, I mean, Mike Collier, I mean, he was painted as a carpetbagger when he came over here to run against Ryan Gaddy. He
run against Gaddy and Blue Gaddy tried to tell me one time that, what was that lady, who was the black lady that ran, having a complete mind blank, that ran during the Mills and the Gaddy race.
Anyway, from Mendon.
Yeah, I can't. She's a nice lady, and I was friends with her. Still am, I think, friends with her on Facebook. Met her a couple of times. Anyway, he tried to say, well, yeah, she pulled votes from me. I was like, yeah, but he still blew you out in the runoff.
Right.
I mean, so your point, yeah, Mike, you're right. He was painted as a carpetbagger, and but he was painted as a carpetbagger in the first race too. I know that well, and that didn't do any good. That's not what
Well,
got Mills.
so this Doty Horton Turner thing. I mean, from the get go, this race perplexed me. I didn't get it because look, I know both of those cats, Doty and Chris. I know both of them to be conservatives. I do. And Chris comes out with a campaign about we're not bringing home enough money to the district. We're not bringing home enough to the district. Doty, um, got in a pissing contest with the governor, and it cost us. And obviously, the majority of the electorate didn't agree with that because I don't know that it would have been as lopsided as it was.
Well,
And
but here's a little bit of irony. So keep that in mind, exactly what you just said, because of course that's absolutely the truth. But Mills was attacked for not bringing home enough bacon, and Adam didn't have to do any attacking. And so it's like this dichotomy. Does that make sense at all? Mills, the biggest gripe against Mills was that he didn't bring home enough bacon, that all these programs and districts got cut, and then he voted for to raise the spending cap and all that.
well,
And yet,
are you saying Adam really did make that argument? Because I don't think he did.
No, he didn't. He didn't have to. Everybody else was. The whisper, it wasn't really whisper campaigns, they were out loud, but the PACs and all that, it was this weird dichotomy between that race and between Turner and Horton and Doty.
Well, look, Turner and Horton was, I mean, it was a fist fight. I mean, they were punching each other in the nose and going at it, no doubt about it. And they were, I don't,
Yeah.
I say they were going at it. To
They
me,
really
they were
weren't.
going at it because they weren't really they were being nice. Chris was saying, look, we hadn't brought home the money to the district. He finds that's offensive. They wasn't working with the governor. I think she needs to be replaced. That was it. And oh, by the way, we got a crime problem. Yeah. And I'm the best guy for it. Yeah, that's right. He is a crime guy. He would be best for it. But does our district does that district, District 9, do they feel like crime is their biggest problem? No, I think they feel like their roads in their pocketbook. So I didn't understand the argument. I didn't understand why you would make it.
We had this discussion, I think, some during the show and after the show when we had Chris on. Was that look? It was a great conversation. I mean, some of the stuff that he was talking about with law enforcement was great. That doesn't qualify, in my mind, that doesn't qualify somebody to be a state rep against an incumbent who is already well liked. And, I didn't, couldn't vote in that race, obviously not in their district, but I would have voted, had I been in that district, I would have voted for Doty because there were a couple of instances where she said she was going to do something and she did.
It was for Chris, it was the wrong argument,
Right.
or the right argument for the wrong race.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think so. All right. Hello, Judy Stewart. You're not too late. We're just rambling on about the election like every other show in existence the last couple of days, but that's okay. And look, like I said, we're kind of looking at this bigger picture. We're not talking about the we're not talking about the numbers. The two guys on the sidewalk, their podcast, they went a little more into the numbers. We're looking at of course, the bigger picture type of stuff with this. All right. So yeah, look, every time I bounce up and down the roads, I'm not thinking about law enforcement. I'm not. And what is this? Let's see. I just got on to her about roads here by email because of the excess revenue. D. White Clark says Doty's record spoke for itself. Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, you've got your Seabiscuit hat on. Are we going to Oh, we're still in state rep area, so all right.
How are we not going to talk about that race?
He won hands down.
He won it. He did. I got to tell you, I couldn't tell on that one. I had no idea. I didn't know how that was going to turn out.
I think that has a better ring to it, Senator Seabiscuit.
Senator Seabiscuit. Okay. Now, there's a little bit of controversy after the race that has popped up on that race.
Wait,
now,
what?
Oh yeah.
After the race? I thought after the race, it was
all right. So I just shared a in the wait a minute. Maybe I can do it. Let me see here. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Yeah. What are you trying to do?
Yeah, you guys are gonna love this. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Share screen is up.
There is no telling. Well, let me hit preview first and see what this is gonna be.
This race, I really didn't know how it was going to turn out. I thought, I thought that the problem for Seabiscuit was because look, let's face it, he's a jerk. He is a jerk. I know very few people that like him, but he votes conservative and he votes limited government. He does. You can't freaking take that away from him. But so I got this sent to me, and apparently, after the election, when the results come in, apparently, Mike McConaughey, it's customary. Look, and this is a rub. I've heard another story in another race, but it's customary when you have an election and you concede to your opponent. You call them, you congratulate them on beating you. As hard as it is, you congratulate them and, you wish them luck, and that's the end of it.
Right.
It's what you're supposed to do. So as the story would go, that the coach, he calls Seaball, and Seaball won't respond to him, won't take his call. So then supposedly the coach gets this text message.
Oh wow! When someone sells their soul, it rarely works out well for the seller.
that was from Seaball.
Now,
wait.
All right, but hold on a second. So while you're pulling up the next deal or whatever, so there's also the rumor. I'd like to know if there's any truth to it. I hadn't, called Dodie to ask her, but somebody said that Chris Turner didn't call or text to congratulate Dodie.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard. So take off my share screen so I can get this other one.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go
ahead. Here is the let me get it over here. Yeah, so here's the second part of it.
All right, so here we go. Share Duke screen. You got what you deserved. I'm busy celebrating. That sounds like Seaball. Senator Seabiscuit.
That is classic Alan Seaball right there. I mean, I believe without a shadow of a doubt that Seaball sent that back to McConaughey after running that race.
Wow. That is hilariously awesome. I mean, I had never really run for office or anything like that, so I don't know what's customary. Depending on the race, I would have probably said something like Seabiscuit did too. So anyway,
but you know what?
I don't know.
You know what? As much as we advocate that we need to be have more dialogue in politics between the candidates, and that you need to have more dissension and divisiveness or whatever. I mean, look, the coach couldn't decide what party affiliation he was going to be. He thought his best chances were to be a Republican or switch to a Republican to be able to run against Seaball. He tried that. He went that route. He was
Right.
really a moderate, and I'm being kind, say a moderate. He really was a moderate, trying to, fit that square peg in a round hole when he really wasn't a Republican. It was questionable about how that
Yeah.
district would go. I
See
mean,
that look that's where I have the problem is when people switch parties like that. Now look, the argument can be made that back in the old days when we were kids and all that and shoot, probably not even then since then, but that a lot of people in Louisiana were Democrats or registered in the Democratic Party, blah blah blah. I just don't get that because the reason I can never pull the lever for a Democrat is if you are a registered Democrat, then by extension, you support the Democratic platform, the party and the platform. And by extension, the planks of that platform. And, I don't care what you say, if you got the D behind your name, then you support things that I am just totally against. And so I can't pull the lever in good conscience for a Democrat. Look, I'm kind of like you. I don't know if I necessarily consider myself a Republican. I vote Republican. But again, that's mainly because I can't pull the lever for somebody when your party platform has planks that I'm vehemently against.
Yeah, and I that the planks thing, I get that. The Second Amendment, the pro-life, all that crap. I mean, look, I'm tired about all of that. What I want to know is that what ideology have we been practicing in Louisiana for the last 100 years that's got us to where our state, our population is stagnant? Our kids, they leave the state. Our roads continue, our taxes go up, but our roads and our infrastructure continue to crumble. And we continue to every year spend more money than we take in. I mean, it seems like just what policies are we utilizing that has gotten us there? And I would contend it's not limited government conservative policies, but it's liberal Democrat policies that are getting us there.
Or liberal Republican policies, as the case may be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because let's face it, the majority, I shouldn't say the majority, that's being critical, but a lot of our Republican elected officials, they're not limited government conservatives. They are Democrats because the only way they can get elected is to be Republicans. So we haven't tried. You can say, oh, we have these guys and that we're trying something different, but that's bullcrap. We're not. It's let's go see how much we can bring home to our district stuff. That hasn't worked. That hasn't worked. But the good news is, I think we're going to be able to know whether or not they're right or we were wrong. And I say we, the limited government folks, because it looks strongly, looking across a lot of the Senate races across the state. Valerie Hodges, she won the Senate race down there. Blake Miguez, he won that Senate race down there. It's conceivable that we're fixing to have a limited government Senate and we're going to have a limited government House. And, with a limited government governor, we might, in the first time in the history of Louisiana, we may truly have the opportunity to turn the page on Louisiana politics, Louisiana government, and the way things have been going. I really believe that with all my heart, Rex, that we're fixing to get that opportunity. And I also think for the first time, and I started to say this in the beginning of the show when I was talking about my interest in the legislature, a big question was, when would be the best time to have a constitutional convention? Well, I'm telling you right now, now's the time to do it. It feels like now's the time to do it.
Well, here's the deal, and I pulled this quote. This is from Representative Beryl Amade, Secretary Treasurer of the Louisiana Freedom Caucus. Basically, he's saying that the reign of the rhino is over. Oh, she?
Bayrail is a she.
Oh,
Extremely
excuse me.
limited government conservative. She's a good gal.
All right, excuse me for that. But we've got Jeff Landry as governor, supermajority of Republicans in the House and the Senate, and a public that indicated, I'm inserting that they've been intolerant of smoke and mirrors. Now, you're right. Here's the chance, because literally with the stroke of a few pens, starting next year and the year after and all that, they should be able to fix everything. Everything.
Come on now. Hold up a minute. I'm not going to give them, they should be able to fix everything.
Why
but,
not?
Well, the first thing they should do, I mean, look, if Adam Bass and Dennis Bamberg, if they are limited government conservatives, and I have no reason to, let me back up.
Careful what you say.
They say that they are. I mean, I hope they show that they are, but if we go to become and have a constitutional convention, I hope that they have limited government beliefs, and they try to push that forward and try to they have an opportunity here to make history, and whether they seize upon that opportunity or whether they fall back to the old ways of the old guard,
Look,
that's to be seen.
It's no different than in the federal government. We had when Trump was elected, we had the White House, we had the House, and we had the Senate. And arguably the Supreme Court mostly. They should have been able to fix, that's the federal government, I won't say everything, they should have been able to fix most things. Now we have virtually the same thing on the state level. So they need to be able to fix a whole laundry list of what's wrong with this state. They should have no opposition to doing it. You got all three branches of government.
You know what? Ed Burchett makes a really good point, and I think he's right. I have to agree with him. I mean, I have to agree with him. At some point, you must admit it has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican and more to do with person.
Right.
I think he's right, because a lot of our historical elected officials, they go down there and it's about what's in the best interest for them, not what's in the best interest for the state or their constituents or their district. And the majority of our elected officials have been down there for their own self-interest. I would agree. And I could name historical elected officials in Bossier who went down there broke without, 2 nickels to rub together in their pocket. And after being in the legislature, they come back and they're riding high.
Right. Well, look, our good friend Ryan Haygood has the first five items on his laundry list. Get rid of the state income tax, pass universal carry, otherwise known as constitutional carry. Anyway, pass school choice, fix every major road and bridge, reduce car insurance premiums 50%. I can't disagree with most of that list. I mean, and there's no reason they shouldn't be able to do it. If they don't pass constitutional carry immediately, let's see, when they go into legislative session, is this the budget cutting year or the general legislative session? It's a general legislative session, right? I forget how.
I don't know. You're catching me off guard. I really don't know. But
Right,
what I think Jeff Landry needs to do is call for a special session and have a constitutional convention right out of the gate.
Yeah. Well, I can't argue with that. It would be interesting. There's a few things I'd want to change in our Constitution, starting with constitutional carry. Anyway.
And the number one thing he needs to do is that we're going to merge with Texas, and that he's running for governor of Texas.
There we go. Mike Collier brings up a point. He says it depends on the president of the Senate and Speaker of the House down in Baton Rouge, I'm assuming. Yeah, but you got a supermajority like of everything and all these conservatives, Mike. I agree with you, but there should be no problem in getting the right person on the Senate side and on the representative side.
Well, Mike, the on the House side, it's looking like before the Clay Schexnayder debacle, the Cameron Henry, as you'll recall, was the leading contender from the limited government conservative side of things, and I would be happy to report to you that the consensus right now is that Cameron Henry is on track to be the next Speaker of the House. That it's looking like he has the votes as it stands right now. Now Senate, I can't tell you. Don't know.
You have apparently started something, Duke, about this merging with Texas. Are you talking about the whole state, or are you just talking about I-10 North?
No, I'm talking about let's take it. Let's turn Texas. Let's merge with them and take Texas into Louisiana, and we're gonna adopt their constitution, but we're gonna take their state.
It's gonna be fun.
I mean, look, they just send all their taxes across the river, the Red River there. I mean, I know it kind of.
No, I'm talking about the actual process of taking the state. They have a.
I don't know. That's for them jack wagons and Raymond Cruz and all his Krispy Kreme. They can figure all the details out.
While Israel's over there demolishing Gaza, we're going to have to go pick on Dallas and Houston. That's going to be a challenge.
Hey, did you see the report of the in cities in the whole country? The cities that were the most likely and had the highest rates of infidelity were Dallas and you saw that?
I heard it on the radio. So, hey, Thomas Shea brings up a point. Says constitutional carry won't change my life. Our roads, especially ones with statues, I gotta agree there, are killing me. That is a very good point, especially about the statues literally in the middle of the road. But I will say this: remember that the Second Amendment, and by extension, at the state level, being restricted by law from carrying is a God-given right that is protected by the Constitution and also should be protected by our state. Driving down the road ain't a right. So I agree with you, Thomas Shea, in principle. I just like to point that.
All right, so moving back, Danny McCormick looks like he prevailed against an opponent that was just downright ugly. I got to tell you, I was so
that Randall Lyles guy.
Yeah, he came up in somebody's driveway and getting ugly because they had a sign in the yard. Yeah. I mean, now look, y'all know the deal, folks watching the show. Y'all probably, who came after Danny McCormick? You know who it was. There's a Bossier link to this.
What? Like literally came after Danny McCormick, or politically or figuratively?
Okay, wait a minute. I may have got it wrong. Anyway, we'll go with it. I think I made a mistake, but we'll come back to it.
All right, we'll come back to it. Let's change gears for 1 second. Let you gather your thoughts.
Not that it was a different thing. Somebody texted me something. Oh. But I got to correct what I was being told. But here's the thing. Danny McCormick, and it's a Bossier. The people that were hitting Danny McCormick, there's a Bossier connection there. Who do you think? What did Danny McCormick rail against the most, and what did he hitch his giddy up to with a Democrat to oppose in the legislature?
Port?
The port and Solyndra and all the ability of the port to just come into anyone. Right. All of y'all, there's 100 people watching the show. Yeah. And as y'all will recall, if the port wants to come in your backyard and put a sewer plant, they can do it. And there ain't nothing that the city of Bossier Parish, Caddo Parish, or anybody can do about it. They can do it. Well, Danny McCormick was raising the red flag on that, and he was getting after the port. Well, what did they do? They went and recruited a former opponent, Randall Lyles, propped him up, and went after him.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, from their perspective, it makes sense. And now.
But what's the Bossier connection?
Yeah. So what is the Bossier connection?
Well, who writes the insurance for the port?
You've got to be kidding. Queen David was in on it?
Queen David writes the insurance for the port. Who sits on the board out there? We're putting statue of his family member on the.
Yeah,
Oh, wait a
Big
minute.
B.
That's his. Yeah, he's out there. I think the former city attorney, Jimmy Hall, I think he's still out there on the board.
Yeah, and
I
his
mean,
name's going to be on the stupid statue Tower of Taxes, too.
the former Bossier Parish administrator. I mean,
Pam Glorioso?
No, not Pam Glorioso.
No, who
Bill
are you talking about?
Altemus. Bill
Oh, okay.
Altemus.
Okay.
He's
sorry.
out there.
Yeah, Pam was a
mean-
CAO, sorry. Okay. All right. So, yeah, we'll get to the city council here in a little bit, and I don't want to delve off into the Tower of Tax Dollars too much. All right. So let's go on down through this list because we're going to have a little bit to do with the city council, too, and we need to finish up with our laundry list on the election results and get to the police jury races, I'm sure.
Yeah, so let's just jump right straight into the police jury races. I mean, look, so Andy Modica, Philip Rogers, right?
Yeah. Right.
Philip's a popular guy. He finally got on the right side of things. Again, we live in a box. The folks that watch this show, we appreciate every one of you, but got to acknowledge we're a minority of the population. Andy literally he wasn't even thinking of running. He wasn't going to run, but he saw that nobody was going to qualify against Andy Modica, and the freaking last day of
Phillip,
qualifying against Philip, he jumps in the race to run.
Well, look, Andy and I had that discussion. I said, I think you've got an uphill battle to climb because Philip, even though he had to be dragged kicking and screaming into doing the right thing, finally, he did the right thing. And like you said, we've got a skewed perspective of it. Now, to Andy's credit, he did get 30-something% of the vote. I mean, for literally doing it at the last minute and not a lot of budget and not a lot of planning.
Well, Andy had no help. He didn't have no donations of consequence that I know of. I mean, he basically just put his name on the line. He went out there and he did what he did. He didn't have enough help. That goes back to the point you were talking about, the Term Limits Coalition. I mean, it's not enough just to volunteer every now and then. When you have people step up for these elections like Andy did and even Barry Butler, it's not enough to just, cheer them on from the sideline. You got to get out and you got to help them. You got to step up and help them.
Yeah, it is. Look, and so let's segue into let's segue into Barry Butler. Andy and Philip were District 3. Let's segue into District 5, which was your favorite person, Juliana Parks versus Barry Butler.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't think of a finer candidate than Barry Butler to run, and be on the police jury, but again, Barry last minute again, Barry didn't decide that he was even going to get in that race until right there the week of qualifying. That's when he made his decision. Again, last minute. Wasn't a ton of planning in the deal, and he was right after qualifying. He wasn't even in the country. He was out of the country for a couple of weeks.
That was a little bit of a challenge. So let's be truthful and be honest, because it's on the campaign finance reports. Barry paid me to do the videos and the social media, and arguably, we produced some good videos. I think Barry had some great points, and like you, I believe in Barry and think he would have made a great police juror and absolutely better than Juliana. But you can't win a campaign just on social media and the sign wars and by extension, billboards. You've got to do all the other things as well. Now, I'm not saying Barry didn't knock on some doors and shake babies and kiss hands. I am saying that the way I want to, guys, as a joke. But I'm not saying he didn't do that, but you're right. Juliana and, Allie were out there, I don't know, a couple of months ahead. There were Juliana signs. And look, to their credit, as much as it pains me to say it, and I know will cause you some heartburn, they did their work.
No,
she was the incumbent.
No doubt they worked, and she's the incumbency regardless. I texted someone who lost in one of their races, and I told them that incumbency is hard to overcome. It's almost impossible. And I mean, okay, so I'm fixing to share another image.
Here we go again. All right, hold on. I got to pull up some results here because I got to go through all these. All right, you need me to share your screen?
Not yet, but incumbency. Get ready to though. Incumbency is a hard thing to overcome, and you if you're going to take on an incumbent, you got to have your crap together, and you got to be ready to go. But there's so much more that goes into it. The timelines, the early voting. I mean, like Barry's race, for an example, Juliana, got 500 more votes. It was almost half of the deficit was simply in early votes.
Early voting. Yeah.
Right there, and that alone. And
there wasn't time enough between when Barry decided to run and the early votes for him to make up the difference. There was no way. You and I talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, so anyway.
No slide on Barry. It's Tuesday night quarterbacking from the election this past weekend. I think, like you, and I know Barry real well. He is a great guy. Would have made a great candidate. I think his issues that he ran on were legitimate, real issues, not just talking points crap.
But again, all of that, and us living in this bubble, in this box, we would assume that while the police jurors would say that, oh, we're just lying about, the appointing Butch Ford. Look, we've got Doug Rimmer on video saying that they knew that Butch Ford didn't live in the parish, and Juliana at the same time saying that everything I was saying was a lie, that it wasn't a violation of the law, and that they didn't know that he was not a resident of the parish. But Doug Rimmer said they were. It can't be both.
Well, here's the deal, and you started down this path earlier in the show. We've got about 6,000 followers, give or take a little bit, and we appreciate every person that watches and every person that's following us and, listening to us get on our soapboxes and commenting and doing all those things. We appreciate every one of you. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at the total number of voters in Bossier City and Bossier Parish, if you just consider every person in Bossier City, just for easy numbers, is what, about 60,000? That's everybody in Bossier City. If you consider that, we're only 10% of that at best. That's just the city counting everybody. So when you figure the registered voters in the city and the parish, we're getting the message out there. We're educating people. We both meet more and more people all the time who watch the show and whether you agree with us or not. But it takes time to do this. And to be fair, our attention has not been on the police jury much for quite a while. We've been focused on the term limits with the city, and there's a building process to that. And once we swing our attention over to the police jury, I think we'll be able to educate even more people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this election cycle, there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that were put into this, and it didn't necessarily pay off, but and I say that literally. You can share my screen at any time.
Oh yeah, all right, so warning for folks watching, this is, I guess, going to be the blood, guts, and gore show. Here we go.
I'm glad this this election cycle is over with.
Yeah. If you wonder why we go offline here a little bit from Facebook or YouTube, this would be why.
Yeah, somebody will report.
So what is that, like cherry pie? Is that cherry cheesecake or something? Strawberry cheesecake? What is that?
Well, talking about that volunteer thing. So volunteering for political campaigns isn't always. No, this was not a fist fight at the front door of somebody's house. This was me.
I thought you
Who,
knocked on David Montgomery's house for term limit signature.
no. This was me and a T-post driver having a disagreement, and the T-post driver won without a doubt. Put me to my knees.
Yeah, so blood, sweat, and tears, literally. All right, so Larry James Hawkins says, did I see correctly that only one police jury member running for re-election was not re-elected? I believe of the ones that ran, that is true, because in District 4, somebody was asking in the comments about District 4, John Ed Jordan won with 58% to Jack Harville's 24%. And then there was a Democrat in the race. Donald Stevens had 18%. That's a John Ed, no runoff for that. Just 58%.
Now, in that race, look, we didn't say it. But Jack Harville, I mean, he was watching the show earlier, and we appreciate you watching, Jack, but we call it like we see it. But I think Jack Harville beat himself. I think he could have won that race, but I think he beat himself.
Look, the whole Ivan debacle, and like I told Jack, you can't delete. That is the worst thing. It's bad enough for the comments, but deleting them is even worse. That just really stirs a controversy. Yeah, you did yourself no favors with the Ivan group, and we appreciate you coming on the show as well if you're still watching, Jack. But yeah, it didn't do yourself any favors. Let's put it that way on the social media front.
And I mean, look, it's just a rural. That is just a rural police jury race, and should you that you don't know about running campaigns or being involved in politics, do you really need to, talk to people that know about politics and plan and be ahead of the game? That vote and that police jury seat is just as important as Glenn Benton's seat. It's just as important as Juliana Parks, as any of them. Chris Marsiglia, it's just as important as any of them. Yeah, you should. If you're going to throw your name in the hat, do some planning, get some advice ahead of time. Don't just willy-nilly and then go out there deleting things that are going to come back to haunt you and hurt you. Get some advice on some stuff.
Right. Well, and look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's why I drink sweet tea during the show.
All right. So Pam Glorioso and Charles Gray.
Yeah, I think that's going to the runoff. Am I correct about that?
I don't think so.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Pam Glorioso won with 56%. There was only two of them in there. I'm sorry. I thought there was three people.
Now, you want to know the backstory on that one, right?
Well, let's hear it. I have not heard the backstory.
Charles Gray, keep your powder dry because the seat may be vacant pretty soon.
Really? That sounds intriguing.
Well, I hear there's a future mayor's race in Bossier coming.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's see. What is that? A year and a half out, maybe?
Word on the street is that the reason that Miss Glorioso ran for that seat was to try to build name ID for the potential run for mayor of Bossier City.
She's got her hands full because Tommy is very good at taking selfies. All right.
He's upped his game lately. Yeah.
So let's do this the other way. The aside from Pam winning, Keith Sutton also won down in District 12. And, we talked about Cupgate and that whole debacle. And I don't think that really moved the needle on the election any. But Keith Sutton did win against Mac Plummer down there with 53% to Mac's 47%. So we do have one new police juror besides Pam.
Yes, we do. And you know what? Tom Salzer is untouchable down there. Tom Salzer is God of police jury members in Bossier Parish.
Who needs term limits when you're God?
When you're God, you don't need them. Let's petty term limit people.
Pesky little things. Okay. And then, of course, all the amendments passed. Bessie Board, Sherry Poole, looks like she got 51%. Anything else you want to mention? Of course, we know Julian's sheriff again, still so.
Okay, so I guess we're going to move into Bossier City, right? We've about. Oh, wait a minute! Wait,
yeah,
whoa! Yeah, hold up. Secretary of State's race.
Yeah, but let me mention this one before we get into Secretary of State. So, state representative of the 2nd Representative District, which is part of it is in Bossier Parish, Stephen Jackson won by a whopping 8 votes. Of course, it's only 13% turnout. Stephen Jackson is the one that we have had mentioned before on the show that got in some legal issues over here in Bossier. He's from Shreveport and a shadow commissioner over there and just full of controversy. But looks like he's going to be a state rep now.
Is he the one that John Settle's been reporting about as allegedly being a stalker?
One and the same Stephen Jackson. And that's related. Crap. Yeah, it's related to Bossier because part of that district's in Bossier. A small part of it, I guess. Anyway.
Well, here's what I want to know. Okay, so how many people think that we have fair elections? You think we have fair elections, right?
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Okay, yeah. So all right. Well, I want you to.
There's always going to be an error.
I want you to prove it to me. Let's audit it.
Okay, so what happened to Charles Clare?
No, I ain't talking about Charles Clare. I'm just saying I want to audit the election.
Well, you can't.
Well, no, I want you to prove to me that it was a fair election. You said that it's a fair election. I don't believe it was.
No, I said almost fair. Let's be clear.
I want to audit.
Fair enough. Fair enough is specifically what I said.
But the Secretary of State and his crony that's running, Nancy Landry, says that, they are fair. They are all on the up and up. But you're saying we can't audit it. I'm saying I want to audit it. I don't know. How can it be fair if you can't prove that the results are accurate?
Who's watching the watchers? And they're watching the votes. Look, I thought Brandon Trosclair was an interesting guy. I did actually vote for Trosclair. I don't completely agree with Brandon, and I guess arguably with you too, on the secure paper. It can be done securely digitally, and he and I did agree on the open source aspect of it, but I agree that his ideology of trying to get it even more fair is right on the mark.
Totally agreed. So here's what I want to know. Let's do a random check here. How many people watching this show, how many of y'all voted for Clay Schexnayder? I just want just random check. How many people voted for Schexnayder? And if you did vote for Schexnayder, I mean, you don't have to, but I'd like to know why you voted for Schexnayder, because I don't know that the guy has ever been to Bossier Parish. Ever.
He got 11% of the vote.
Well, yeah.
In Bossier Parish.
He got the second most. Nancy Landry got the most votes, and Schexnayder got the second most votes in Bossier. And I only know of Nancy Landry coming to Bossier one time, and that was to Republican women. One time.
Hold on. I got to correct you a little bit. Clay was down about 4th. All right, so here's the breakdown in Bossier Parish because I'm looking at it right now. Nancy Landry got 29%. Thomas J. Kennedy got 15%. Mike Francis got 16%. Gwen Collin.
In Bossier?
In Bossier. I'm looking at Bossier Parish right now. Secretary of State. 85 of 85 precincts reporting.
Must have updated from when I saw it.
Maybe so.
Okay, who did you say second or third?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Mike Francis was third. Gwen Collins Greenup, the Democrat, got 13%.
Well,
she beat Brandon Trosclair.
Well, that's not about Brandon Trosclair. I mean, I can see Mike Francis. He's ran, Francis drilling fluids on Moongraphone and Keel for the last 100 years. Who doesn't know Mike Francis's name? But I'm talking about Nancy Landry. all of them with the exception, how many people up here know those people?
I have no
They
clue.
don't
Yeah.
know them. And you're
Yeah.
telling me they blew the doors I mean, and how many times did Trosclair come up here and spend time in this parish? A buttload. He
All right.
worked. These
Hey,
other
he
people
was on our show.
yeah, but these other people didn't come up here and work in the parish. Mike Francis did.
Yeah, Mike Francis did. He was
He
on the
did.
show. Yeah.
But I'm just saying I don't and if I
I don't
wanted to check
know.
it, but if I wanted to check it, I couldn't prove any difference. Isn't it ironic that somebody out of the Secretary of State's office gets the most votes out of our parish?
Well, Trosclair got 8% in Bossier Parish. I guess maybe 6% statewide. Let me flip over here to statewide. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why, I guess I should say, people pull the levers the way they do. I just can't see this Gwen Collins getting. Hold on. I guess I do because we got some Democrats in this parish. But anyway, getting 13%. But I guess she could. Anyway, I digress.
Well, I don't. Yeah, we'll conclude off of that one. I don't think that the best candidate won in this race, and it's going to be a continuation of the same. Yeah, I will give credit to Ardoin. He got us off of the Eric system, but how did we get on the Eric system in the first place? I mean, he was there with Shedler.
Hey, see if you can pull focus on your camera. It's either that or I'm getting really tired. Pow.
Nope.
Oh, well.
Now everybody was able to see my greasy, dirty hands.
The hands of a working guy.
Yep. In the shop, turning wrenches all day today.
Somebody trying to fix something. Anyway, all right.
What about Bossier City? Are we ready to move on, get off of elections?
Yeah.
I'm tired of talking about elections.
There's plenty of other coverage of the elections and all that. So anyway, I don't even know what else to say. Let's move on to the city.
So did anybody watch the council meeting today? I know you did. I did. And there were some fireworks that took place over there on multiple fronts. I mean,
well, I heard you said that there were some fireworks and, to get ready for it. And I was kind of watching and I was like, there are some good things. Colonel Crockett had some good things to say. I was like, there wasn't really that many fireworks till I got closer to the end. And let's see, Cliff Smith says he was there. Good job, Cliff Smith. And by the way, those are some awesome Bossier Term Limits shirts that y'all did, Mr. Cliff. So anyway, Colonel Crockett says Chris did some fact checking on Williams. So I'm gonna pull this up and get this ready over here, and I'll just go to your first time point, and let me see if I can preview and make sure I get the screen.
I am going to go back and make a correction here. Cameron, it's not Cameron Henry in the House. Cameron Henry in the Senate is who people are said to be coalescing around.
Okay. And I'm listening. I'm just paying attention to trying to get this deal.
So, lots of things on the Bossier City. The Tower of Tax Dollars. We're talking about spending more money on dugouts in Tinsley Ball Field. Yeah. That drew some blood. I would argue that we had Ruttenbuck trying to backtrack and cover doing CYA. We had Darby doing CYA. You had Bubba Williams calling Chris Smith out, basically saying he was a liar. And what am I missing? Oh, the Queen. He was worried about people in the audience talking.
He did a little interjecting there, so give me just a second and I will have this ready. Okay, I just about got it. I don't know why my screen was jacked up, but let's try this. Close enough. Okay, so yeah, let's just start right here. Let's we'll start at the reading of the change order again for the Tower of Tax Dollars. This Shane Cheatham, I believe, was the one that coined that phrase. So let's hear the reading of that. Let me get the volume adjusted here. Hold on just a second. All right, here we go.
Adopt an ordinance to approve report of change order number 1 for the Walter O. Bigby Carriageway beautification efforts within Phase 1 of the Walter O. Bigby Carriageway with an increase in project cost of $17,660.03 and adding an additional 143 days. Final reading.
So moved. Second. First by Councilman Montgomery, second by Councilman Williams. Questions from the audience?
Is that Williams or Mr. Maggio?
Second by Mr. Maggio.
All right.
David Crockett, 653 Dumaine Drive, Bossier City, Louisiana. I think some of the comments that were made last week were very appropriate, but I think one thing that the public needs to understand is that the monument includes the names. I just, so many questions from this. Names of past council members, names of engineers. These are plaques that are put around the monument that the city is paying extra money for and having this change order. The issue of change orders for these things was brought up, and that's a very appropriate.
I'm going to stop it for a second. Why didn't we get our names on there or the bossierwatch logo? I could have sent them the logo. I wonder if I send them the logo, if they'll put it on the monument for us.
You know, that would be an interesting thing, but I'm doubting that's going to happen. However, there was some more discussion that's pretty interesting a little later on in this. Keep rolling.
Yeah, here we go.
Comment, and those things need to be answered for the public. You know, if the city had a city engineer, it's amazing to me that the surface structure, the ground structure for anything in Bossier City is ever questioned. Any design estimate should include some sort of a survey of the ground structure, especially for a tall, heavy structure. So those were appropriate comments. But then the other thing is this was explained as the cost of this was associated with that. It was also associated with changes to the plaques of about 20 people, which are current city councilmen, but not all of the current city councilmen. That ought to be questioned. But, you know, people like former city councilmen, former city.
Is he saying that we need to have Hambone and Chris, you know, Mr. Smith goes to Washington up on the
I think that's what he was alluding to.
No,
let us know in the comments if that's what you meant, Colonel Crockett.
Keep going.
City attorneys, the owner of Walker Advanced Consulting LLC, employer of Best Yet Builders. I mean, were these people that paid for their plaques, or is the city paying to recognize people? Current councilmen listed, engineers, former mayor of Bossier City, but I don't think I see our current mayor, Keith Tyndall, engineer, names of other people, Jordan Pearson, engineer, David North, LADOTD, district administrator. Of course, some of our, you know, current councilmen, Mark Hudson, Hayden Bigby, grandson of Walter O. Bigby, Walter O. Bigby Jr.
Wait, they put the grandson's name on there?
It makes no sense.
Whoa. They put the grandson's name on there? You got to be kidding. Oh, you muted yourself. Unmute yourself there.
It would seem so.
Okay. I did not realize that they had put the grandson on there. All right, here we go.
It really makes no sense. The people in Bossier City who live in adjacent neighborhoods, I just drove through that neighborhood yesterday to talk to somebody else who's working on Bossier City term limits. The roads are falling apart. Dilapidated houses with trees growing inside buildings. The neighborhoods need attention, and I'll talk about that later as we go through the budget issues. But I think the city can do better. I think the public is very, very frustrated. It is a tower of tax dollars. You know, you have a lot of really good public citizens. Sobo Live doing a great job covering these issues. Bossier Watch covering these issues. Jeff Sadow, people who've been commenting forever. We don't really get much out of our Bossier Press Tribune. So the city council gets very little coverage. But finally, I think people are waking up. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow.
Bossier Watch. Made
You
the
got a
Bossier
little-
Council meeting.
Yeah.
Any additional?
Say it 3 times and we'll show up at the next meeting. So anyway, whoop, Duke is out. Okay. So we'll give Duke just a second. I think he accidentally hung up. Let's see. Oh, there you are. I thought you were abandoning ship.
Well, I hit the wrong button. I was trying to share something else out on my screen and hit the wrong button.
That's all right.
However, I don't know if it will come across, but interesting thing, these weren't the only comments about the Tower of Tax Dollars.
Oh,
Let's go
no.
back. Let's go back to January of this year. And the first person to express an opinion regarding the Tower of Tax Dollars was none other than Alice Boyer.
Yeah, so hold on just a second. Let me get the share Duke screen. And this may not be sized right, so forgive me.
Let's see if we got audio as well, too. So here we go.
Try.
My name is Alice Boyer. My address is 5041 Highway 80 in Houghton. I'm coming to speak in
You have audio?
Yeah, I think so.
opposition to this statute.
Let us know if we can hear, if y'all can hear everybody.
Well, actually, to the statute itself. Is that possible?
Okay. Of the bidding process you're
No.
talking about?
No,
What
about
statute
the
are you-
actual statute itself.
What statute is that?
Aren't these bids for the statute,
The monument.
the monument?
Okay, go. Yeah, go ahead, ma'am.
You know what I find interesting? Darby was saying, what statue? What monument?
Well, yeah,
What do you-
I thought he was trying to derail her because, we showed this back, I think, in January or whatever. I thought he was trying to derail her a little bit, but he may have been kind of clueless.
Well, was he? Because
Well, I don't know.
given-
We're gonna listen here in a minute, and he's trying to duck and cover here in a minute at today's council meeting.
Yeah, so let's let Alice finish her thoughts here from January of this year when the approval of beautification monies was first made.
Okay.
I'm a little bit confused about why we are even erecting this, since over the past few years, we've had numerous statues taken down. Even in the state, there have been statues taken down. In New Orleans, many. So I'm not quite sure why there's a value placed on this. And I'm just wondering what the benefit of it is. I mean, idolatry should not be included in our city, functions, it seems to me. Because I don't think that, 90% of the people in this community are not going to care about a statue on a road that may even change its name in the near future. We've seen many roads around here change names frequently. And the thing is, the thing that people really care about, probably 90% of the community is going to be, their leisure areas and parks. I wish we would maintain, upgrade, improve, make safer from predators, and make them exemplary, make them something that, people can be proud of. That statue is not going to accomplish that. And, if it wasn't important, there wouldn't be a majority of these recreational areas inside all of the subdivisions within the city and surrounding areas. People care about the school districts, they care about the roads and the ease of travel around this city. They care about safe housing. They care about safe entertainment and shopping areas. They don't want government overreach. And, it's not about the statues. Nobody's going to care about that. And there's a couple of other issues I probably shouldn't
somebody
even
cares
speak about
about it.
right now because it's not pertaining to the
yeah.
exact subject, but it's all relevant. Because, there are some things there are decisions made by this council that affect very few people in this community. And I'm just kind of asking y'all to refocus on what's important for the community and the people within it. Because that statute, I may not live within the city limits, but I'm going to be passing it, and I'm going to know how much got spent on that, and wish that it was spent on something other than. So I'm asking y'all to, refocus. And the only other thing
Okay.
I want to add, the one thing,
Okay.
I'm going to eliminate a couple of other items, but
Well stated, Alice.
Yeah, she was the first person to oppose the statue, the first person to say anything about it, and it everything she was saying, she was talking about parks and things like that, which is interesting given today's council meeting and
Oh yeah.
a lot of the dialogue that was had today, which was pretty amazing. And if you want to run with it from there, take off.
Yeah, so I want to encourage everybody, if you weren't at the meeting today or haven't watched it, you want to pay attention to this coming up because there were some pretty good exchanges. So here we're going to listen to Ruttenbuck for as long as we can stand, do a little damage control. Here we go.
Additional comments from the public?
Mr. President.
Good afternoon, council. I don't think I did a good job past couple meetings in describing kind of some of the circumstances surrounding this particular issue. So just wanted to communicate a few things to you all. My role as city engineer is to execute the various infrastructure initiatives commissioned by the council and the administration.
Translation, I'm passing the buck.
In 2019, the City Council approved funding to beautify the carriageway corridor. The administration formalized a contract with McSwain to perform that work. This effort progressed in a manner not unlike other city infrastructure projects. There was a collaborative effort between McSwain and the city, leaning on McSwain's talented team to create a landmark feature beautifying the carriageway. The intent behind this effort was similar to a number of projects the city has partnered with McSwain on. The East Bank District, for example, that's given the city a unique ambiance. Cyber Innovation Center, which includes the LTRI building that was recently completed, as another example.
You know the term red herring? Where you throw the red herring out there and distracts you from the issue at hand?
Oh, he's throwing them, baby.
Oh, there's fish flopping all over there. Here we go.
And I think it's important to mention that currently the CIC has an annual economic impact approaching $150 million in salaries alone.
Oh, wait a minute.
Project was advertised
you know what he's getting at?
What's that?
Is he trying to say that the economic development of the Tower of Tax Dollars is going to draw people from across the country to come to our roundabout and see it?
There's going to be a traffic jam if there is, and then they're going to crash into it.
Was that
and then
what
they're
he
all
was
going to
trying
leave?
say?
Yeah.
I think he was.
I think it was more of baffle them with BS or dazzle them with brilliance. This is the baffle them with BS with a Matthew McConaughey style speaking.
Okay, keep going.
Here we go.
The city's official paper of record. The bids were opened publicly in these council chambers in January and approved unanimously.
Hey, hold on a second. So I have looked extensively. Short of sending a request into the city, not once have I seen the actual plans for this monument. Not once have I come across them. Has anybody else seen them? Colonel Crockett, have you seen the plans for this monument?
Well, no. I don't think that there was any plan submitted, but
it was. Here's the deal. Not to interrupt you, but there was the reading of the sealed bids or whatever. But even then, even in the minutes of the meeting and the agenda, there is not the actual plans for this stupid monument and Tower of Tax Dollars.
Well, okay. So I actually went into the agenda and I looked at today what they were talking about. And you're right, what was the attachments? And if you'll go to share my screen, you'll see the request, the thing that went forward, bid number P2301, Walter O. Bigby Roundabout Monument. And this was just getting the approval that what he was referencing in January of this year. It ended up happening, I think it was the January 24th meeting or something of that nature. And if you go back to it, if I'm recollecting this correct, and let me switch screens again, this was what was attached. And what was the only other thing that was attached to it was the original approval of beautification that took place in, if I'm looking at this correctly, 2017, or that was the tax bonds from 2017 for the Walter O. Bigby. And then this was ended up being in 2020, December of 2020. Montgomery, Larkin, Irwin, Darby, Williams, Free, and Harvey. They were the ones that voted to approve $400,000 to go to beautification. But nowhere in that did it say anything about a tower. So, or a monument. So fast forward to this January of this year meeting, where it was the approval of a tower utilizing the beautification monies. There was no plans, like you said, Rex. There was none of that. And quite frankly, not even the councilman, Darby, I think, was caught off guard. Obviously, Chris Smith and Brian Hammonds didn't catch it. I mean, I'm sorry, guys. You were slow. You didn't get it. Alice Boyer was the only one that got it.
Yeah. And look, let's, and I agree 100% with what you're saying. But somewhere, somebody had to open this bid. Somebody had to give the designers a design idea. They didn't just randomly come up with this, leaning tower of Walter O. Bigby Sr. Somebody had to give them the idea of, let's make a tower or statue of Walter O. Bigby. Who did that? That was asked. Was it last meeting or meeting before last? It was asked, and everybody had a, oh shit, look on their face. Pardon the language.
Who put their finger on the scale of things? Yeah. Somebody obviously did, because in the original bidding and process on this thing, a tower was nowhere discussed. It wasn't.
What? And Colonel Crockett says, who chose the names? Did the designer just randomly come up with all these people? Where did this come from? Nobody can answer that question yet. Nobody. All right. Shall we continue with the meeting?
Yeah, so I'm curious, what did Darby have to say? Because he had some interesting comments that goes right along with what we're talking about here.
Yeah, because I'm not going to bore us with all of Ruttenbuck's stuff. I mean, he was making the plea that we're the greatest engineers since the slice of bread, and he's from Bossier, and please don't fire us. That was basically it. All right. So Darby says, yeah, it wasn't our fault.
It was all the previous administration, which I would point out is almost all of those guys sitting up there.
Yeah. Paul Black says, why didn't we put the Princess David on top of the tower? Can you imagine his grand double chin of justice? All right, here we go.
I'm going to make a statement, Mr. President. I think we've had some miscommunication and misinformation by design regarding.
Did you hear that though? By design, he said.
By design.
Yeah, let me back that up.
And misinformation.
Yeah, let's hear that one more time. Y'all listen.
You don't say.
Y'all listen closely.
I'm going to make a statement, Mr. President. I think we've had some miscommunication and misinformation by design regarding the council. About. And I would like to enter into the record regarding what we've done proactively on this council. We have an active committee that I chair along with Mr. Williams and Mr. Maggio. At the top of our list is police and fire retention. and new hire incentives. Our committee has addressed the critical subject of police retention and hiring. Out of that committee, we recommended that we reinstate educational incentive, and we've done that. We've addressed that through
That
the
that wasn't the cut I was looking for, but it was
Oh.
the same sentiment.
Yeah,
But
we'll get to Darby. He's got some more in a minute, but let me just, because we've talked about this before, but the problem is, I don't know how many officers are still short, but basically it's, I don't know, in the teens. And they've got money allocated, but the problem is, if I remember our prior discussions on this correctly, the problem is they're not really paying enough to attract the talent to be able to hire. Isn't that pretty much it in a nutshell, Duke?
Well, I think Chris Smith was making the argument about pay of, public safety, fire and police, and the rate and being substandard, and that we've got money for towers and we got all money for all these other things, but we don't pay all of them. And I pretty much think he was called a liar. That's not true. And you got Darby sitting here talking about a committee which he chaired regarding incentives and pay and all of that.
But wait, it gets better, because he's actually going to take some personal responsibility, Duke.
Okay.
Are you ready for this? Here we go.
Budget process, and we would like to look at the increase of salaries for both police and fire, and look at ways that we can put boots on the ground in the police department. That's what we've done already. I've also initiated a citywide salary study, which is budgeted in 2024.
Come on, get to it, Darby.
This again is to address the cross-the-board salary of city employees. We are going to be comparing their starting pay, mid-level pay, to other municipalities, because we do care about city employees and keeping good people in the city of Bossier.
I'm trying to speed him up.
In regards to the monument or the statue,
there we go.
I take full responsibility that, yes, I voted to accept the landscape beautification bids on the 24th of January 2023. I failed to give my full attention to the landscape bid, which included the monument. So I take responsibility for that. I think everybody.
That's all. It's only a $300,000 mistake. That's all.
How about that? But look,
I applaud him.
I applaud him too. That's
Right.
something right there that you don't see. Politicians, they step up and say, you know what? I screwed up. I'm owning it.
Yeah, he literally just said he didn't read the bill.
He's got my respect for that.
Yeah. But too little, too late, so to speak. But anyway, let's continue on, then we'll jump ahead.
Who breathe and perhaps wear shoes have overlooked things in their lives. So I'm guilty of that. Had I known that this monument was really in those proposals that we read, I think I would not have supported it. I can say that with no reservations, because I don't know if people understand that we try to do the best we can, but sometimes we mess up. And when you mess up, you fess up. And I think that was a mistake on my part, voting to not paying attention to that full package of the bid. And that's what I wanted to say today.
Can we say somebody's been feeling a little heat and pressure and is crawfishing as fast as he can? I wonder if Queen David feels awfully lonely over there today.
He doesn't care. He's got what he wants. He could care less what the 100 people watching this show or any of them over there. He got what he wanted out of them. He don't give a damn about them.
Yeah. Oh, and I stand corrected. Thomas Shea says Rex more like 400,000. How? I apologize for that. Yes, more like 400,000. What's a few 100,000 between friends and tax dollars?
But I respect Darby immensely for fessing up and acknowledging. Look, that takes a set to step up there and do that.
Oh yeah, yeah, he did. So Let's jump ahead to to the city engineer part, because there was a little exchange between Colonel Crockett and Bubba Don on that, and we're about to kind of get Chris Smith's about to start warming up in the bullpen. So here we go.
David Crockett, 653 Dumaine Drive, Bossier City, Louisiana. I forgot to mention Mr. Settle. I appreciate all the work he does too. But I wanted to comment on this. I see what you're doing, but I haven't heard anything from the council. It seems like that this may be the cart before the horse, making changes in the engineering department for this and the item number.
Now, let me explain, because I jumped ahead. They went ahead and did approve the change order, the $17,000 deal for the Tower of Tax Dollars. And now they're discussing a change in the position of an assistant engineer or something like that. All right, so just wanted to clarify that.
5, I think your idea of a salary study is absolutely appropriate. I think it would be nice to hear from the engineer department and from the city council. Has guidance been given to all departments in the city that if you get rid of people and get rid of some services, that you can spread the salary around within that division and it doesn't apply to other divisions or the city staff? I think those are questions that need to be addressed to the public. How is the city going to maintain the same level of service? Those are questions that the mayor needs to ask or answer. But I think that this would be more appropriate maybe after a salary study and maybe some sort of a manpower study on the work issues that would be related to this, but we haven't heard anything from the public, and I think this applies to item number 5 also. But I do have another comment, and my comments are not directed towards the city engineer personally, but I do think that this is ultimately the city's responsibility for hiring a city engineer as it is stated in the city charter. I know everybody works as hard as they can, but is this the best model to get the best dollar or best work per dollar through a contractor rather than an engineer? I personally believe that the city engineer ought to be the highest paid position in the city staff. I think that trying to hire an engineer for $80,000 or $90,000 to do this job is not serving Bossier City. The city needs very powerful metrics for the number of change orders and the dollar value of change orders per year. These are huge issues for the city. You could pay for a high-quality engineer staff just with change orders alone. Not directed to you, Mr. Rauschenbach, and you're a great member of this community. I'm not questioning that at all, but I think that we do need to ask those questions, and we need to hear from the city staff. Why make changes like this before you've completed your personnel study? Those are the kinds of questions you should be asking. So why do it? I don't know.
And here in a second, Bubba Don responds, but I want to ask this question. Maybe I've asked it before on the show, but so the city is paying Manchac for Ben's services as the engineer, and then they also get to bill for all these other various jobs that they're doing. I wonder, I have no idea if he is or not, but I wonder what Manchac is paying Ruttenbuck as well. What's the salary for Manchac?
Look, I don't know how the guy does it. He works for the port, he works for Bossier City, and he works for the Cypress District all at the same time. How is that possible?
He's a miracle
How is that
worker.
possible?
He delegates. He's a good delegator. All right.
But there's
here we go.
Anyway, I was gonna point out another common denominator with all of those 3 entities mentioned.
Spit it out, Willie.
Well, there's one person that has an interest in every single one of those. He's got an interest in every one of these things, but
could it be an insurance guy?
It could be, But anyway,
I don't
go
think
ahead.
it's Adam Bass, but anyway. All right, here we go.
Mr. Crockett, I got several things to say on that. You know, we've been moving people around, just like what Mr. Rauschenbach just did. Eliminate one or not hire one, move money around. And the transportation department did it. I mean, all departments do it, you know, and I've always asked, If you got one person, you're not gonna hire him, delete it from our roster, so we won't hire him again in the future. So what they're doing is, it's a net neutral, you know? As far as Mr. Reichenbach's qualifications, I know I said this before, I've known him since he was a kid, playing football at Bossier High School, and he's one of the smartest guys, probably the best engineer we've ever had. You couldn't get enough better than that. And that's my opinion.
Good opinion there, Bubba Don. Way to go.
Mr. President, I'll comment as well.
The protest should be on the roundabout.
City pays a city engineer versus what the charter qualifies. You couldn't afford what we pay a city engineer. And so while I've had my issues with the contract itself, my issues have never been with Mr. Reichenbach personally. He's actually probably the most helpful city employee that I work with on a daily basis. And this is, what we're voting on here, is been commonplace for this council and the city for many years. And so it's a position they don't think they need. And so I see no reason to question it.
Not that you asked, I'm not eliminating a position in the engineering department, just to be clear. We had a engineer aide that retired, and that salary was pretty high. And so we brought that down to an engineering aide one. That position still exists. And we,
in my off time, I'm going to do the work but still bill for it.
Yeah, good translation there, Duke.
That additional salary.
And this is pretty interesting because Paul Black mentions the Manchac logo.
I didn't believe
Funny.
it was
Colonel Crockett brings that very point up.
appropriate. I wouldn't have sponsored the ordinance and brought it before this council. Thank you.
Any additional comments from council?
Guess who?
Please cast your vote.
See, he does it when they start talking about the budget shifts. All right, hold on. All right, so they end up approving that. Let's see, 28. Let's jump ahead. All right. This is an interesting exchange, too. Colonel Crockett was pretty much on point here. Listen to this.
I want to address this. I'm not throwing stones at you, but I do think the city needs to be metrics-driven. Engineering needs to be a metrics-driven process. Whether you don't get rid of the position or not, but you increase your salary based on that, I think it's a policy issue. I think the city council needs to address that. Do other departments look at other vacant positions so they can work their pay raises that way? I mean, is that the way the city's going to do this, or are you going to wait for the city study? I think that's the appropriate way to do this. But I think that there are other issues in dealing.
Studies.
Yeah, studies. We're going to study this and study
Garvey
that.
talked about being chair of a committee and studies. You know, Colonel said it a while ago. Now he's saying it again about pay raises and all this. Sure is a lot of talk about all that.
Yeah, lots of talk about it. Okay.
I got something in the hopper why I make that point for everybody, especially if you're in public safety.
Really? All right.
Keep going.
So, here we go.
With this one issue, and I'm just going to throw out something that has bothered me since I did the first petition.
This is interesting.
I ran into one of the city water employees, and he's wearing a Manchac patch on his shirt. And I asked him, I said, "Are you a Manchac employee?" Because I only thought that there were a couple in the city. But he was a city employee. And I asked him, I said, "Why are you wearing a Manchac patch? Does he work for the city, or does he work for Manchac?" The city employee didn't really appreciate that he had to wear a Manchac patch. I don't know if the shirts are bought by Manchac. I don't know why that's the case. Are we advertising for a contractor? I personally believe that you get the best.
Mr. President, excuse me, Mr. Crockett, if we could caution the audience from speaking.
Can you please pause my time?
Sir?
Please pause my time.
You're going to give your time, but we're pausing for a minute because we have those in the audience that are speaking to the council members.
Must have been somebody
So I
over
would
to the
ask
right that we
that
couldn't
you
see.
request from the audience that they not speak to council members unless they would like to come up after you're through, Mr. Crockett.
No, I appreciate it.
Yes, or take your conversations out to the lobby and have them. That'd be great.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Continue on.
So I think this is just a part of a bigger debate. I raised this whole issue when we had the Port Authority discussion. I think the city needs a city engineer. I think the city engineer needs to be very highly paid, whether it be Mr. Rauschenbach or whoever it needs to be. There are big perception issues in the city for a long time about how much we pay for overtime and the fact that this comes with extra charges. I think the city needs to follow the charter. Whether you want to change the charter for that or not is another.
Hey, I seem to remember a couple of guys talking about that whole overtime issue as well before, but maybe I'm imagining things.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
all right. So
what? Let's get to the point here. Chris Smith, what did he have to say?
Let's get to the fireworks. So let me jump ahead here. Yeah, I mean, Colonel, you did a great job during the meeting. Not trying to take away, but it is 10 after 9. Let me see if this is my marker here.
He's not here. Mr. Rauschenbach, I called you 2 weeks ago on some miscellaneous streets and sidewalks, and you said we were going to need to look at appropriating some more money to work on those. Is this going to be part of?
This is different. I have a project sitting on my desk. This is strictly for asphalt street improvements. So we
Not what you were asking about, Chris.
Work over to Public Works. They handle that, working with their councilmen, and we have a separate.
All right. So basically, there's not that much to that little exchange there, except that Chris asked him about some stuff, and he's like, "Oh no, this is another project. I ain't got into your stuff yet." Let's move into the Tinsley Park stuff. So here we go. I think it starts here with the first. This was a Miss Deborah Ross commenting. Now this was to appropriate, what was it, Colonel? $1 million or something like that for the dugouts. I didn't look at the agenda to see for sure, but it was like $1 million for some dugouts or something. So let's see what Ms. Ross has to say.
My name is Deborah Ross. I live at 1200 Phillip Drive in Bossier. And we had the streets done down there, and there is a drainage district on my home. And I had spoke with Rick that works for the city of Bossier. The drainage ditch is built up too high, so when it rains, the water does not drain in it. But whoever built it, they built it where all the concrete has broken around it, and the drain the lid would tilt. And I spoke with Rick about it. Some kids could possibly fall in this drainage ditch. I think it needs to be concreted around, because all it has up there now are corns, the orange corns. And I think it's like a safe.
So I'm going to pause it right there.
She doesn't understand that we've got kids having to sit in the bleachers that should be sitting in a dugout.
All right. But notice who jumps up to render her aid. Oh, we'll get to that. And they didn't know anything about it.
Oh,
even though
right.
she named the name who they talked to. Okay. So that kind of leads into the discussion on Tinsley. Let's get to that. I know I'm kind of jumping around here.
I'm going to try to sit in for Mr. Hammonds maybe. The question is, what's the change order for? It's a huge change order. I think this drive.
I don't know. Chris said he was earlier, so Crockett, he should just go up there and sit down.
I don't know, Colonel Crockett, if you can carry his water. I don't know. I mean, this is Hambone we're talking about.
Right.
Drives that project up over $1 million, and I think that's a huge project, and I think in the future that we ought to really think about, rather than spending money so much on recreation, that we ought to be spending more on infrastructure. Thank you.
All right, now this is where it starts getting really good. So we still got we've got over 90 people still watching across all the platforms.
Recreation. It was pretty packed. They wanted more recreation, more pickleball courts, more ball fields, more this and that. Like we explained to them, we're trying to do everything we can, but you can't have everything, more tennis courts, more this. I mean, like I said, we're spending a lot of money, but now you get criticized for spending money, so.
Maybe if y'all weren't spending $400,000 on a damn monument, yeah, you wouldn't get criticized quite as much. All right, here we go.
I'm not tracking the statement made just a moment ago, so that's why I got up. I just wanted to make some clarification. It's a deductive change order. We're not adding to the project, it's a deductive. So we were here, we opened bids a couple weeks ago, I think more than a couple weeks ago now. That project came in above the available funds that were allocated in that budget. And to be clear, that was a budget that was put together from a bond issue quite a ways back, and there was trailing dollars left in there. That bond was allocated towards recreation projects. So we work with Bossier Parks to
Blah,
If,
blah, blah, blah,
you know,
blah, blah, blah.
if I worked for Ruttenbuck, you know what he would do? He would tell me, go to Fleet Pride, buy all your motor oil at Fleet Pride. They're 25% above everybody else out there that sells the same motor oil, but they have a 25% discount going right now. So go buy it there.
Yeah, and because it was already budgeted, you should just go ahead and spend all of it anyway. If you could save money, be damned.
Yeah, get
All right.
extra so we'll have it for later.
Right, that's translation, folks.
Good grief.
All right, so here we go.
Any other questions?
I would,
This is good.
Are these dugouts absolutely necessary, or is it just kind of a wish list? I mean,
A wish list. Did you
it's a
hear him
serious
say
question.
it?
I'm not trying to.
It's a question that's probably not as easy to answer for me. I would say, and I say this delicately, but to be competitive in the space that we're in and to be as good, if not better, than the other parks
Here
that are
we
doing
go.
the same thing, Coach Bland would probably concur that they are needed.
Here, this is
Thank you,
where
Ben.
it gets
Yes,
great.
what we have, we got an old facility out there. Small, 12 and under, could fit in the dugouts. Now we got older people playing in the tournaments. They're not big enough. They're outdated. They've been there for God knows how long. And what you need is a dugout where everybody gets in the dugout and not sitting up in the edge of the stands with mom and dad. You know, and mom and dad can't run over and coach. They need to
I
be
don't think
separated.
anybody's arguing that
And
point.
to do that, we got to come in and redo these dugouts to accommodate what we're offering, to get people to continue to come into our town. And like I say, we got World Series coming in.
Now, I want to say,
if they come into the town and knock the front end out of their car, what's the likelihood of them coming back again?
well, not just that, but deja vu. Didn't we talk about the usage or
Yes, we
not?
did.
Okay, of Tinsley
Or the
Park. Am
lack
I
of
remembering that
use.
right? Or the lack of the ability to use it? I'm not making that up. We did discuss that, right?
But Bubba Williams wasn't the only one calling Chris Smith out, saying he was a stinking lying dog, pony face horse soldier.
Yeah. Well, this is about to get good. Here we go, folks.
We need some room. We need to be able to accommodate the players in the dugout, not sitting in the bleachers, because the bigger the people, the more space they take.
So, and I know that I'm by
I had no
myself in
idea.
this for 2.5 years. I have been,
Listen,
but
listen.
that's fine. You said the key phrase there, when people come in. People who live in Bossier City and pay tax dollars don't have access to this facility. It's people who don't pay tax dollars.
Yes,
that
they
have-
do, sir.
No, they don't. They can play in tournaments, but they don't have an option to use this facility. And over 5 years, we've spent $21,447,361 at Tinsley Complex. And to me, that is an awful lot of money, and the taxpayer doesn't get to use the facility.
Now, refresh my memory, Duke, and I'm maybe catching you off guard, so I'm not asking for the details. But wasn't it the fact that just regular folks couldn't schedule to go use the ball fields? There was like, he was like the field Nazi or whatever of allowing
Well,
people to use the field.
Well, you've got people who live here in the city that are on travel ball teams,
Right.
meaning that they go away from here to play in
Yeah,
tournaments.
it's
places.
not Dixie Youth or Dixie League. They've got their own
Yeah.
leagues and all that. Yeah.
But they want to get the fields to go and practice on. They're willing to pay. They
Right.
want to pay to use the fields, but they won't let nobody use the fields to practice on.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure. We've got a comment here. I think Chris is responding to us talking. He says, yes, that is true. Okay. All right, here we go.
And does
Sir.
nobody see an issue with this?
I got an issue with what you just said. It's not accurate.
I'm all ears.
The facility we're trying to redo the dugouts is the old part of Tinsley. That's where the adult softball players play. That's where the high school comes and plays, and this is a facility that's used more than just tournaments. We do have high schools. We've had colleges come in and play there.
We
are
recruiting people to play at the updated, brand-new facility, correct?
Yes, sir, T2.
These dugouts that we're proposing are the older facility.
Yes, sir.
We're not necessarily recruiting people to come play there. We're trying to get them to come to the new, nice one that the public does not have access to.
They do play at the older facility. We do have tournaments out there on the weekends. I'm not sure how often you come through the complex on Saturday, but we're filled up.
I'll give you credit. It's packed on weekends.
Yes, sir. And if you go out on Monday, excuse me for interrupting, go ahead, sir.
No, I'm just, if I coach a team and I want to practice out there, I can't. I'm not allowed. It's not an option. I can in Ruston, I can in Broussard, I can in Youngsville, but I can't in Bossier. I can't even go to the other two premier parks in this city, Clifford Allman and Walbrook.
Now, I want to stop him for a second. So, when I was a kid and played Dixie baseball, we lived in Haynesville, Louisiana. Haynesville had basically one main ball field. It was located by Haynesville High School, by the stadium, or not by the high school, by the football stadium in the city park. So if we wanted to go play ball, we could just go play baseball there. Now, if they had a game, all us kids knew, clear the field, our parents were going to drag us off the field. Can somebody answer me this? Can anybody go out there, a group of kids, if they want to play baseball, go play on those fields?
Well, absolutely not.
Why
no,
not?
But well, I don't know. They're fixing to have that debate. They're fixing to argue that.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Let Chris finish.
Thing is, I think we ought to be investing more in parks and recs. I think we ought to be investing in, because when kids have things to do, it keeps them out of trouble. So I'm 100%. I'm behind the mission, but I can't be behind the mission if the taxpayer does not get use of its facility. At this point, we're subsidizing, and we should just sell it to a private company and let them run it.
Are you coaching a team local, playing in a local league? If you were.
There are hundreds of local teams that practice across the river, quite frankly, but they live in Bossier City. And I don't want to beat this dead horse because we beat it.
But they go out of town to play. They don't play here. But if you're in a league here, Little League or Dixie League or whatever, there's fields to practice on.
But why can't you practice on that?
You have to play in a league to have access to Walbrook and Clifford Allman.
Because they're managed by, or they're.
And the people who get to use our nice, beautiful $21,447,361 facility do not live in the city of Bossier. They do not pay taxes.
Way to put it, Chris.
And that is a problem, and everybody up here should have a problem with spending $21,447,361 of taxpayer money on a facility that taxpayers cannot use.
Amen, brother.
This is.
Amen. Do you have anything to say to that, Mr. Lowry?
Nope. Can't. He was on a roll. I just want to let him go.
This is a huge deal. When we talk about can't afford raises in a budget, but we can afford this. I mean, when is it going to stop? When is accountability going to be had on wasting taxpayer dollars?
Mr. Smith, I believe you recognize sales tax has gone up. That's due to people coming in our town spending money. The hotel motel tax has gone up.
Red herrings.
That's people staying in our town when we're having these tournaments. And we do use the facility during the week. We have middle schools play out there where you're talking
And he
about.
can't prove that.
We do have other schools that play at the facility. We do have tournaments being played out there by the high schools. I mean,
Look, I won't even argue with him that it does cause a sales tax increase when people from out of town come in and they're going to buy Cokes and soft drinks, and maybe they forgot some gear, so they run to Academy and spend it there or whatever. That's not, they're missing the whole damn point. The whole point is, we want to go have a wiffle ball tournament and get some of our, let's see, we'll get David, we'll get Ryan, we'll get David Johnson in. We'll invite whoever wants to have the Bossier Watch wiffle ball practice. Are they going to let us on that field?
Well, he's fixing to answer that.
Okay, here we go.
If I wanted to rent the field, can I rent the field?
for what?
If I wanted to rent the field to practice baseball, can I rent the
We
field?
don't practice. We play games.
Thank you. Okay, if I wanted to play
Boom.
Let him finish.
Drop the mic. All right, here we go.
play a game, if I wanted to have a city council baseball game, can I pay for it and go out there and play?
If you got a game, yes.
I can rent one field and play a game.
If you want to play a game, yes.
When did Bossier City's policy change?
It hadn't.
No, it most certainly has.
Oof.
We can move forward.
I just wanted to add something really quickly because I
Okay, you
gathered
stop
most
right
of the
there.
data.
Yeah.
There's nothing else added in here.
No.
We're at an impasse. No, it hadn't. Yes, it has.
Right.
It can't be both.
Yeah. It can't be both. So
Has anybody watching the show tried to rent the field to have a game?
I hadn't yet, but I swear we need to call up there and try to rent it for a wiffle ball, a Bossier Watch, the first annual Bossier Watch wiffle ball game, and we need to practice.
Yes. No, you can't say practice. We're all trained professionals, wiffle ball champions here. Everybody watching the show, we're going out there to all play a game. And we have our rules. It'll be all of us on the field at one time.
Yeah, we need to do that. All right, so I'm not going to bore us, because it's almost 9:30, but I'm not going to bore us with the rest of this.
And we want the small dugouts, or the we don't want.
We don't need the big person dugouts. Well, all right. So let me jump ahead. Chris did vote against it. The ordinance to amend Ordinance 8 of 2019, appropriating additional $250,000. Blah, blah, blah. He did vote against that. So good for him.
Bubba Don had some things to say, and still, guys, hang in there because I've got something golden for you coming right here real quick. It's going to be shocking, but I guess go to the 122 mark and let's see what Bubba Don had to say.
We're almost finished with this part, and honestly, this is pretty much the best part. Here we go.
So, this is what Mr. Smith said. I think it's a bad look when we have streets and sidewalks that we can't repair. We don't have the money in the budget to do that. We're starting in 2021 to 2023, we put $8 million in there, and that was $1.6 million per district. That's a lot of money. And every year, and I've been doing this a long time, we go up to the engineer's office, we sit down with them. I usually have a list of year to year, the streets I need done, sidewalks I need done, just from riding around looking. And, last year Clinton was the assistant engineer. We rode in my district, talked about asphalt streets. Some of them needed it. We did those. Some of them had cracks from, several years, which we'll get on in the following years. That's been done every year, so they do know what's going on. He can zoom in on a street panel that I wanted done. We can see the big old dip in it, and we got that done. The next thing was what Mr. Smith said was we've got police and fire who are the bottom paid in their respective fields. Money's not in the budget to give them a raise, but there's money for a $300,000 statue. I just did a little research. It wasn't much, but 2018, we gave them $2,400 January, $2,400 in April, a bump in pay. 2023 was a $2,000 bump in pay. Alexandria contracted with a Vermilion Analytics and did base pays and things like that. And it's just something I found on the internet, and it had 13 small cities, the size of Bossier, and we was number 6 as far as pay, police officers' pay. So I don't think you can say that we're not doing streets, we don't have the money, because we're putting a lot of money into them. And also Public Works, or Wade, he has $1 million in his budget also for doing concrete work, sidewalks work that needs to be done. So I just thought some of these things were, they weren't true, so
there it is.
It's not a shot at Chris, it's just something that, if we're gonna do something, let's tell the whole truth. And it's just statements of mine, it's nobody on this council had anything to do with it, except myself.
Okay.
I think he's lying.
Oh,
Mr. President.
well, I don't even know what Chris is going to say right there, but so what would you say if I told you, remember Darby talking about a committee that he was a chair of?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say if I told you that they had someone locally that did do some audits of public safety salaries with comparable cities and comparable pays regionally? Maybe not exactly the same size, but comparable pay, and that they were presented with some statistics that showed exactly, and to my understanding, pretty much all the councilmen got it, even Bubba. And
No
if you
way.
go share my screen, I'll share you the chart that was presented to the council regarding police officers'
Well,
pay.
even better than that, hold on. I'm going to share it from mine just a second. Let me find it. I think that's it right there. I think this is the one you'll want
Cut
right
6.
here. Yeah, cut 6. That way it'll look a little better, maybe. All right, so that may be a little difficult for people to read, but it's a big chart. Highland Park, Texas, Plano, Texas, Allen, Texas, Irving, Grand Prairie, Frisco, Carrollton, Arlington. So some of these are a little bit larger. Some of them are comparable to Bossier City. Look at the last two down there, Shreveport and Bossier City. Police officer regional salary comparison chart from 2023, so July of this year. Bossier is dead last.
Yeah. So, 44,000, Shreveport, 48,000. You would think that we would at least be comparable to Shreveport. You're at least. So to say that Chris is just not telling the truth, and look, this chart was given to all the councilmen,
Yeah.
even
So
to Bubba.
So you're saying Bubba Don had it, correct? Had this chart.
That's my understanding, that they got this from someone that created or did an audit, was asked to do a audit. They did it, and this is what they come up with, and it was presented to the council. But look, I got another cut, the very next cut. I think it's cut 7. Not just the police department. Let's look at the fire department. So it's reverse order.
Right.
But as you can see, Bossier City
up at
right,
the top.
Yep.
And top in this case is not top of the salary. That's top of the inability to pay what they need to.
Now, this is a little bit of a hard pill to swallow when we're building statues. We're worried about dugouts that need to be, as he said, larger for larger people, and so that kids aren't sitting in the bleachers, or so that the parents can't come in coaching their kids. And we're dismissing, what was her name in Hooter Park area that was talking about Deborah Ross, talking about
yeah.
the hazard, the health hazard regarding the possibility of a kid, a safety hazard. I don't know. Maybe, well, I don't know what I'm missing here, but I kind of see it differently.
Well,
See
they
we're
had a
not
pretty good.
spending money right.
Colonel Crockett had a pretty good discussion about Hooter Park that we kind of bypassed, because we're running long tonight. But I would encourage everybody to go back and listen to the exchange between Colonel Crockett and the coaches on Hooter Park because it was awesome. All right.
Well,
Shall we,
Andy Monica says that's Texas versus Louisiana. You know, Andy, that may not be, but Shreveport right there is above us. I
Yeah.
mean, what did David Montgomery
Well,
say?
maybe they get.
Welcome to Shreveport. Well, I think
Yeah.
if you're an employee of the city of Bossier, you might want to be comparable to Shreveport.
Well, in defense of Shreveport, they probably have to pay their officers hazard pay all the time. But that's a whole other story. All right, here we go. Let's listen to this exchange because this gets pretty good.
I appreciate those comments, Mr. Williams, and I will send you over a list of every police department in our region where it will show Bossier City dead last at the bottom. That's not me making anything up, and I'll do the same for the fire. I'm not trying to stir up controversy, quite opposite. I'm just trying to do what I think is right for the city. And when I talk to our leadership in the civil service departments, they'll tell you, we train them for other departments. They come here, they get their training, and then they leave. And if I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong. But I don't think I am. In fact, I'm 99.99% sure I am. And Mr. Darby has done a lot of legwork on doing some research for a staff study. When we get the results of that, I think we'll really see how far down the list Bossier City is. And we didn't get here overnight, and we're not going to fix it overnight. It's baby steps. And as far as infrastructure, Mr. Rauschenbach just sat up here and said that he could probably spend $500,000 to $600,000 per district.
It takes a long time, though, to get things done. Like I said, I've been working on these streets and for a while.
The statue would have cost one district.
Bam.
The dugouts would cost 2 districts. We've already done 3 of 5 districts with things we've passed just in the last 2 weeks.
Drop the mic.
Great
And so
point.
I admire you. I admire our relationship and the things that you have taught me, because you've been very helpful to me.
I appreciate it.
And we've told each other a million times we can disagree up here, but when we walk out, we're still going to be friends.
Exactly.
And that's all this is. But I do believe that as a council, with about 1.5 years left in this term, we have a lot of work to do that we can leave a pretty impactful legacy on Bossier City. And it sounds like you're open to it, so I hope that we can work together and get some good stuff up here for us to vote on in the coming months. Thank you.
You have any announcements, Mayor?
Yes,
Okay. What say you, Mr. Lowry?
Well, a lot of people, and it's a fair observation that people are saying. They're saying, hey, they're calling us out saying, hey, that's all comparison all to Texas cities. Well, see, I was fixing to use some cities in Louisiana as an example and say, well, do you think people are going to quit Bossier City and Shreveport to go to and name cities? No, I'm not going to do that. But the reality is, and Chris Smith more or less said it, these folks aren't quitting to go to these. They're quitting to go to these cities in Texas, to go 45 minutes away to Longview.
Yeah.
That's where they're leaving us to go over there. And we're not talking about,
why can't you compare them to Texas and surrounding areas? Why not?
Yeah, I mean, dadgum, Tyler, Longview, all of those are just down the road. It's not like that's 1,000,000 miles away. It's not that far. Those are competitors. I mean, that's the reality.
Right, it is. So, all right, Mr. Lowry, we're now at 2 hours and 39 minutes, not our longest show. But we have absolutely covered the election results and more. Now, we kind of touched on the next steps. And I'm not trying to just cut off the discussion about the city council, but our focus has been on the city council mostly for quite a while because of the term limits. And, we don't make any bones about it, or it's no big secret that our plans are term limits one way or the other and a few other nice things for the city council. And once we get the city council lined out, our focus is going to shift elsewhere, which would be
the police jury. Without a shadow of a doubt. And the police jury would like to throw cold water on all of the efforts of the volunteers to date and what you've done in Bossier City. They love nothing more than to try to be dismissive. And to some extent, our movement, the people that are volunteering, we are a small group of people, but we're growing by the day. And, utilizing this show and utilizing people watching us and you that are already volunteers, look, we need y'all to help. The more of us there are, the more that we're going to be able to affect change, because when we do branch off from the city, when we finally get the city going in the direction that we want, meaning that we affect the term limits and the other petitions that we're trying to get made, we think the city will go in the right direction. When we do branch off to focus on the police jury, we're going to need a whole lot more help. So part of this process is building the team. And in building the team, we need people to get involved and to volunteer and to help. So, go to the bossiertermlimits.com, offer up to volunteer, and, we're going to send you an email. We're going to, with opportunities for you to be able to volunteer, we're going to contact you and, try to get you to help. And look, we're not talking about any big commitment. We're talking about simply getting out and doing just a little bit. And the truth of the matter is, you're going to find out that you'll actually enjoy it and you're going to learn some stuff and it'll probably blow your mind.
Yeah. And to the few dozen people that have already signed up to help, we appreciate all of that. We will be reaching out to you very soon as we get all of this kind of coordinated a little better. And like Duke said, we encourage you guys, go to the bossiertermlimits.com website, reach out to us in a Facebook message if you need to, whatever you're comfortable with. If you have our phone number, shoot us a text message and we will get you on the list. And then as we start getting a little more organized with this, we'll start coordinating with everybody. So that's the next steps. The first step is what we're doing so far with the Bossier term limits in the city council. The next step is going to be turning our attention to the police jury. All right.
Yeah. So get involved, sign up, let us know who you are and that you're willing to help us just a little bit. It may be that, hey, we want you to just get us 10 signatures. Just commit to get us 10 signatures. I talk to 10 freaking people every day, different people.
Right. Yeah. 10 signatures times a few hundred people goes a long way. I would like to give a shout out to the Smiths. They have been very instrumental in helping with the term limits, and also the t-shirt that we showed last show of the Bossier term limits deal. They asked to get a copy of the logo, which I gladly sent to them, and they made a couple of shirts, so we think that is very cool too, and we highly encourage folks to do that. If you want to make some shirts of your own, let me know. We'll send you the logo. All right, Mr. Lowry, my stomach is growling. I didn't eat lunch today. I hadn't had supper yet. I'm hungry. I'm miserable, and I am proud of Chris Smith for what he said at the city council meeting. Strange combination, but it is what it is.
It is.
What else say you, Mr. Lowry?
I say good night. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see y'all next week. Guaranteed that there is going to be some fireworks next week. Know it's coming.
Oh, no doubt about it. All right. We're out of here. One more quick thing. you know the drill, folks. If you want to send us an email, go to protonmail.com, make a free anonymous account. Don't put any identifying information in it. Send us an email to bossierwatch@protonmail.com. We do pay attention to those. You can also go to the website, blah, blah, blah. Donate if you want. If not, we're still going to be here next week. Catch y'all later. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.